Defining Duke is brought to you by Policy Genius. Life insurance is such a valuable thing, and I get asked all the time, Cog, why do I need life insurance? I already got the coverage through my job. Why do I need it? Having life insurance through your job may not be enough. Most people need up to 10 times more coverage to properly provide for their families and financial cushion if something were to happen to you. Policy Genius is your one-stop shop to find the insurance you need at the right price. You could save 50% or more on life insurance by comparing quotes with Policy Genius. The Policy Genius team works for you, not the insurance companies. So head on over right now to policygenius.com/Duke to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save. Defining Duke is brought to you by Indeed. No one has a business like yours with all its strengths and unique challenges. To succeed, you need a hiring partner that adapts to your needs. You need Indeed. One of the things I personally like about Indeed is that it does the hard work for you. When you pay to post a job, Instant Match shows you candidates whose resume on Indeed fit your descriptions immediately after you post, so you can hire faster. So what are you waiting for? Start hiring now with the $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Duke. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/Duke. That's Indeed.com/Duke. Terms and conditions apply. Pay per qualified applicant. Not available for all users. You need to hire. You need Indeed.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Maddie here today, and welcome to episode 71 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Today, we are joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Commander Shepard himself, Lord Cognito. I know why you picked that shirt this week.
You already know what it is. This is Commander Cog, and I approve this Defining Duke.
Yes. Do you approve of the guest, though, Cog?
Yeah, I approve the guest, man.
Oh, yeah.
We got some more than gameplay royalty in the building, in the realm of the Dukes. So let's get to it, man.
Yes. Today, we are joined by none other than ColtEastwood. Colt, how are you doing, my friend?
Excellent. This is the calm before the storm. We're getting ready for so many games that we don't know what to do. I'm super excited.
Right on, man. I'm happy to have you here. It's been a long time in the making, so thank you so much for joining us. It's been a while since, Cog, when you think about it, we haven't had a guest on the show in a hot minute.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
So expect many, many more in the coming weeks. You know what I'm talking about as we prepare to get ready for the big Xbox Bethesda Game Showcase 2022, June 12th. Got a lot of exciting plans for that, so stay tuned on that. For those listening, thank you so much for joining us this week. As always, you can support this show and get early ad-free access over on patreon.com/laststandmedia, where shows go live on Thursdays. However, if that's not your jam, we're available for free everywhere, so you can check us out there. However, if you are a patron, you can get access to Defining Duke Ultimate, our patron-exclusive show, where episode 67 just went live, and it was about the Xbox Everywhere initiative, which we'll talk about in this episode as well. However, it was a unique opportunity for Cog and I, where normally we're doing individual random conversations, interviews, all that stuff across this entire library of content. But this was a moment where we talked about digital versus physical games. The DRM issues occurred for Xbox. And then we had this Xbox Everywhere leak happen, and we had the ability to kind of follow up and do a two-part conversation that really wasn't planned and build on our thoughts there. So, Cog, you're always pushing DDU. What's the Cognito rating for this one?
Listen, man, this is another one. Y'all better get on that DDU. Stop playing. I keep telling y'all, DDU is some of our best content. It's very highly focused, and it's so funny because we couldn't have predicted it any better. We had the game preservation kind of talk, and I was team digital, you know what I mean? Maddie's team physical, so we kind of having a little debate, but then we met in the middle, and then right after it, this happens, and we had a good discussion. So yeah, definitely check that out. DDU's up there, and we got to talk about this outage. I know we'll get into a little bit more of it later, but yeah, man, good discussion. I really enjoyed that, man. I like those discussions.
I did as well. So with that, want to get Colt involved in the mix here. Let's do before we begin, some follow-ups from the patrons. This one's really interesting because it's something Cog and I have really beat the drum on. Colt, I want to get your thoughts on it. If rumors are to be believed, Xbox and Bethesda may have some Disney projects up their sleeve. Word comes by way of Joey McDermott, who had previously, I put this in quotes, leaked the Xbox Bethesda roundtable event through a source of his own that seemed relatively spot on. I see Colt giggling over there. What are your thoughts on this one, buddy?
Well, you're bringing me fresh new ideas. I hadn't heard about this. So some Disney projects. We talked for over a year about Bethesda or somebody working on something that was Disney related, Mandalorian related, possibly. There was the leaks that came out like a year ago or a couple weeks ago about a Mandalorian MMO, which sounds like, what? What is that? Like the whole house of the Mandalorian and their clan, I guess. So this is something that Xbox fans have been asking for. Like, they're hungered for a Marvel or a Disney or a massive franchise IP to come to the Xbox, because right now their biggest franchises are their legacy games. So do tell, Maddie, what this leak is spilling out about Disney.
Yes,
like, how close am I?
The most I have heard, hold on. I have not heard anything. The most I heard, which I talked about this on Spawnwave, I recently joined his channel to do a conversation about the Xbox Bethesda showcase. I was surprised it didn't get picked up because I don't think anyone had reported on it. And while it never came to fruition, I was originally told like it was the Coalition looking at like a High Republic kind of game. And so that was the one that was in the mix for a while. I was told that's not happening anymore, but the idea that I can't fathom a reality where Xbox and Bethesda, whether this rumor is true or not, I just can't imagine a reality where they're not flirting with the idea of getting some Star Wars game, some Disney property of any kind. I know a lot of people default to the Disney properties like Marvel, Star Wars, but they have many other very popular ones that they could dig into as well. And we're seeing that with Machine Games, with Indiana Jones, and I'm sure there are many more they could pick from. So Cog, I know you're leading the charge on Xbox putting the pop and pop culture. What do you feel about this rumor?
I'm super excited just to even the discussion of Disney and a property like that. I'm always on the pop culture train. I always feel that, Xbox needs to get a hold of that, how to have their identity with one of the popular franchises. And of course, I am completely biased towards Marvel and superhero stuff. I'm completely biased towards third person, action oriented, over the shoulder, #just1. Y'all know I am the originator. I'm Lord Duke. #just1. But look, seriously, like, these are great properties, and I would love, Microsoft to kind of get behind it. I've already kind of lamented when the actor that played for Shang-Chi, he's a huge Xbox fan. I believe he came out during one of the Game Awards to present an Microsoft award. I'm like, this is it right here, man. Like attach yourself to something. But all jokes aside, I do hope they grab one of the properties. And to your point, Maddie, it could be more than just Marvel. It could be a Disney property that I'm not thinking about as well. I just don't want it to be like the Lion King or something like, I just me, I would like a superhero. I think Xbox need a superhero.
You don't want Planet of the Apes, Cog? You don't want something fun like that? It's not what you're looking
Lilo and Stitch. We got some.
No, Cole. No. Get that out. I don't want no Aladdin. I don't want none of no Hercules, none of that. No. Please. Please. A superhero would be nice.
Yes, I agree with you. All right, next on our list here, EA and FIFA are officially ending their partnership. They will use the EA Sports FC title moving forward. However, their licensing portfolio of players, teams, stadiums, and leagues will remain. So this is merely a name change at face value. So I thought this was kind of surprising. No longer will we see the FIFA 1, FIFA 2, FIFA 3, so on and so forth. It's ending, and now long live EA Sports FC. Cog, big sports gaming fan nowadays. How are you feeling about this one?
I think this is significant. I think that that relationship is going like over 10 years, and the vibe I get, if you look at a title like Colt, we look at MLB The Show, right, and we see sports leagues now, they want to spread this thing across multiple platform, digital revenue, and so on and so forth. So, I think the days of kind of just limiting yourself to one publisher, especially with a sports league, I think that's where it's trending now, where the exclusivity deal doesn't have the power that it once had. And I think where they really were in tough negotiations were, as far as the pricing. And from my understanding, FIFA kind of felt double what EA was giving it. And now the name's going to come off. Obviously, they'll still keep the licensing stuff, but World Cup, I heard, is not going to be in the new one for EA. Oh. And so, there's going to be subtle changes. And to me, this opens it up for other platforms. I say all that to say this, is that I think that what could happen now is what I'm hoping to happen is that bidding war again, like the old NFL days when it was NFL 2K and Madden, because to me, the gamer gets better games as a result of it. But this is one to watch. I think this is a little bit more significant than people think with how this played out.
I was thinking of Game Pass almost immediately just because of what happened with the show. You brought up a really good point there with the exposure and how these leagues are trying to reach more people. And I know with the case of the MLB, on a completely separate note, is that that's a sport that's really trying to maintain their viewer and gain new ones as they're making a lot of rule changes and trying to speed up the game. So they're trying to expose more people to it. But I do wonder with that EA Play partnership in effect and the name change, do you put it in Game Pass to try to get more eyes on it, to market this new title, or does that devalue this new name? There's a lot of questions there. Colt, what are you feeling about that?
The first thing that comes to my mind is FIFA is already a top seller across the world, regardless, right? So going into Game Pass would be a bonus. And the explosion of MLB since they've been into Game Pass has been a great success. And to take something that is licensed and franchised, and you have to dump all this money in to get those rights and push that forward through a game, and to only have it on PlayStation, PlayStation San Diego Studios is seeing a big difference now that they're reaching Xbox fans, and I've become a pretty big fan of MLB in the past 2 years, something I've always kind of skipped because I don't play on PlayStation that much. So this is sports games are a big deal, and we're seeing such a shift in the way that we can consume sporting events. Like we used to just turn on the TV and flip to like the fourth channel and we could watch the NBA game of our choice or whatever was on for the weekend. And now it's across different streaming services, and they have to approach a different way to get to gamers for these sports games, and they're still really popular. So whatever they're doing, I hope it makes it more advantageous for us, the consumer, that we can get to those games, and they do more than the famous, it's just a roster update, really grab a hold of those games and make them better. And I feel the changes and the improvements on the last MLB. So maybe it is starting to kind of do the right thing for the players that are buying the games and playing them.
Yeah, I just wish one day we get the days of like Slugfest, NFL Blitz, NHL Hits. Just give me those midway sports games back, man. That was like when we had like NBA Street, like that's where I think sports games are at their best, because Cog mentioned the bidding war was happening at the same time as them like offering these fun, childish, arcadey like sports games. Now all we get is like the occasional Mario sports game and then the actual simulations. There's no in between. And I know game development's more expensive than ever before, but it's like, man, I would love to see those games come back so badly.
Yeah, I wonder if there's been a pull away of that. I always hear people say they want to play. What was the NBA Street game that was like really over the top? Of course, NBA Jam was big, but there was like it was like a street.
I think it was NBA Street.
Yeah, it was just NBA Street.
Yeah, it was like people are dying for that, and like even the boxing games, like bring those back, but.
Oh, Def Jam.
Baseball Stars is one of my favorite games. You don't get that middle ground where you get like there's games that have real, like when I'm playing MLB, everything's really simulated, done really well. It nails the sport. But I'm with you, Maddie. I want like that because you always had the sports sims game, and then you had an arcade version, like when you said NFL Blitz. I could play as the Seahawks, and I could sit on another player after he caught a pass. Sit on him over and over. And so you get the best of both worlds. All the mechanics work in the game. Plus, you get to have the fun of doing the late hit over and over and over.
Yeah, the late hit.
Come on, like an audience, is that like something that you're wanting? Because we should have our voice heard. I'd love to play that stuff.
100%.
You guys are right. I mean, I'm the simulation hardcore guy, but those games really brought to me more fans into it, more gamers into it that didn't care about all that roster stuff and all those aspects. It's all about the fun, right? You're just bashing your friend and having. So I agree. There needs to be a balance there, and hopefully it opens up.
Absolutely. Moving on to another Game Pass game, People Can Fly is confirmed Outriders has yet to make a profit. I thought this was kind of noteworthy because People Can Fly is like the last standing studio of the Western Division that Square Enix sold off. And they called the game not underwhelming. They called it their next big franchise, but they also said that it didn't meet expectations. And I thought this was very interesting to see because it reached 3.4 million players. So this game was successful in its player count, no doubt, thanks to Game Pass Day One. That was like our first major AAA level pop of getting something third party day one in the service. And it was really exciting. The game was great. It was in my top 5 of last year. But Cog, I want to dish it to you. What do you feel about Outriders not making a profit quite yet?
Yeah, this is interesting to me. I don't know what's going on. The reason why this one is very strange because I believe last year they came out and were like they weren't paid royalties yet from Square or something. So I don't know what's going on here. And I don't want to be disrespectful to People Can Fly if they're saying it's not a profit. But to me, if you already put that out in the ether that you haven't received the payment, and then we know what, I don't want to say the dysfunction of Square, but clearly Square has been managing things, I feel, not the greatest over there. You know what I mean? So they literally just sold their Western division off to Embracer Group. It almost feels like the scapegoat. Like, you guys aren't producing. Avengers ain't producing. Guardians of the Galaxy is not producing, so to speak. And I don't know. I don't know what's going on here. This is a very strange situation. You know, on one hand, we heard it was in Game Pass. We heard it did very well, you know, that they were, you know, I think Square came out with that statement. So I don't want to accuse anyone of anything, but it just seems very
some foul play here, don't you?
It don't pass the smell test. What you think, Colt?
The smell test. Oh, there's 2 problems. One is Outriders, People Can Fly. They did get paid. They got paid while they developed the game. And like you said, their bonuses, maybe they didn't get bonuses. The other part was when we were talking about the sports team stuff, right? It's the franchising costs. So when they sell off their Western studios, Guardians of the Galaxy and these other the Avengers games, like that's really super expensive. So Square is the publisher. They're looking at it like, look, we're going to give you this money to make this happen. And then they're sitting back thinking, we're going to make this much off of them when it's done. And this is going to be great. And then when the numbers roll in and the game launches and everything, they look at their numbers like, man, we barely made any money. And, you know, they put that out as an investment. And so they had to cut the fat. We've got the Tomb Raider team. We've got the Deus Ex team. We've got the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. And those IPs are expensive, you know, and they're not making enough money. Even their Tomb Raider games didn't make a whole bunch of money. So it's kind of, we look at Square, it's kind of like the bad guy, like, oh, it didn't meet expectations, and we're very disappointed with these teams. And the rest of us, millions of us gamers are like, what? We love that game, but they're the ones looking at the numbers. So we always kind of look side-eyed, like, what's really going on? That I think it really comes down to they're looking at the financials, and they're just not making enough money to justify keeping those studios with the lights on.
Right.
Matt, quick question, man. Do you think it's just Square maybe having unrealistic expectation on these IPs based on what Colt's saying, like the licenses they pay for, and they really sitting there? I mean, let's be honest, none of us didn't. I didn't expect Avengers to flop the way it did when it was first announced.
Yeah, when it was first announced. Yeah, for sure. I think it's a blending of issues. Like they, you know, on one end, it's like a Tomb Raider, I don't think should flop. But when you read like their expectations are in like the many, many millions, I feel like part of it falls on them expecting this series that's kind of broken out to break out again and reach a new level. I admire the tenacity there, but otherwise, I can't help but look at how consistently things under-delivered from their point of view. And you got to check yourself at that point. If you're seeing consistent lacking deliveries from your publishing partners, then you probably want to start managing the project a little tighter, not investing so heavily, and not changing the creative vision to match something that will allow you to make money in the long term. And of course, Avengers being the most egregious offender of that, right? Avengers is the one that, love it or hate it, 100% looked like it was going to be a single player game. It played like it at first, and then it just changed suddenly when you got to the hub area and the shield helicarrier, and you're like, Like, okay, I guess this is a live service game now. And
I'm like, where's the missions?
Yeah,
Where's
where the
the
missions
single player
at?
mission?
Yeah, the single missions were good. Like I
Well,
was
really
enjoying
good, but where
myself.
were they? Like, I went back and played it when it went to Game Pass. I'm like, I'm gonna give this another shot, and I just mainlined the campaign. I love the game. I was like, wow, this got a bad rap. But my problem the year before was doing all these missions, going, look, how do I go forward? And those things were horrible. But yeah, it is like Outriders wasn't that great of a game to me. I played the whole thing with Randall Thor, and we were just barely having a good time. So that game just wasn't amazing to me. So and then Guardians of the Galaxy is incredible, but Guardians of the Galaxy completely had to get swatted across the rear end for what Avengers was and didn't get a fair shake. And then I'm sitting here thinking, well, Avengers is actually really good and it didn't do well. Guardians of the Galaxy is amazing. The Rise of the Tomb Raider and Shadow of the Tomb Raider are fantastic. The Deus Ex games are really good and underrated. Like they're just not quite reaching the upper echelon of just millions and millions and millions sold.
Yeah. It's a mystery to some extent, but I do think like marketing is a big part of that. Like I think with Outriders, they were very intelligent. I think they did the best thing for that game with the day one Game Pass release. Because if they has yet to make a profit currently, I think it probably wouldn't even come anywhere close with the current trajectory they were on. So I think they were smart with that one. But when you look at how they like did Guardians of the Galaxy, all of its strong suits were like, it's like they didn't know what they had there. Like they completely hid them away in this weird demo at E3 that was bugging. Everyone just, even I smelled the Avengers stink out. I'm like, y'all about to go round 2 on this? Man, no, I'm okay.
Round 2?
Yeah, I'm okay. And you play it. I remember reviewing it and going, oh, wait, this is way better than I expected. This is actually a pretty good game. I didn't love it as much as everyone else, but I thought it was shockingly good. It made me care about the Guardians of the Galaxy, which I never did before. So they're able to make good games. Just their vision, their marketing, their project management. It's a lot of intangibles that I think us as like pundits can't sit here and put our finger on because we're not in the studio able to really narrow it down. But I think there's a lot of logical reasoning involved that could say those would likely be some factors as to why these games have yet to hit profitable states.
People Can Fly another shot, because Bulletstorm is one of my favorite games from last generation. It's underrated. It's such a gem. It's so fun. And and when I heard that they were making a new game called this Outriders game, I was like, oh, I'm a big fan of that team. And when you talk about the stink, I feel like Square Enix was like, we need you to do this service thing. And I don't know if maybe they didn't, but when you see them do the service thing with Outriders and then they did it with Avengers, you're like, you kind of put 2 and 2 together and wonder, is a publisher really, leading them along and saying, look, this is where the money is. You keep your game in players' hands longer. They do the microtransactions. They stay on there. But then Guardians of the Galaxy is wholly single player, and everyone who played it says it's an 80 plus, review score. So yeah, I don't know. Make the right choices.
Come on, Square. Make the right choice like WWE, who has reported through Stephanie McMahon that they have signed a deal for a wrestling RPG to be announced soon. Mr. WrestleQuest over there, Cog, how are you feeling about this one?
I feel a little bit away. Shout out to WrestleQuest. Shout out to Mega Cat. Maybe WWE saw something, man. They saw something, because what during the interview we had with the devs, he made a good point, because I was like, what made you think about doing like a wrestling game? Having the whole idea of being a wrestler with all these storylines and so on and so forth. And he was like, look, he said, wrestling has some of the best storylines, period. He's like, it makes perfect sense. It's a great marriage to be a JRPG. He's like, why haven't people done it, sooner? Then they got, Jeff Jarrett, they got all these wrestlers involved. I just find it interesting that here come the WWE now, like, what?
Now thinking of the financial earnings goal.
Yeah, that might be a good idea too. I'm just saying, who knows if it had anything to do with wrestling. I'm rooting for the little guy. I met Jeff Jarrett. I was happy right now. So yeah, look, at the end of the day, I do think this is a good marriage. I'm dying to see how they implement it. And one thing about the WWE, they'll have a budget. So graphically, we'll see how that thing looks. But I think this is a new wave. And I know you big, Maddie's big. What's the what's your AEW, you know what I'm saying? So
I'm going to the show tomorrow as we were.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So it's like, I think this could be the new wave in a genre that kind of needs a shot in the arm. Yeah. And I think if they do this right, it could be really successful.
Colt, are you into wrestling at all?
I'm not. I like listening to you guys. No, I've never really been into it, but make it look and feel like, Mortal Kombat. Make it like over the top. Make it look amazing. Like the wrestling games always look kind of derpy when I check them out. They don't look that great. The flat shaded and like, no, man, you gotta overdo it. You gotta have shiny traps and everything. Like, make it amazing.
Okay. You want over the top.
It's got to be a little bit exaggerated because when you're watching wrestling, and I've watched enough wrestling to know like everything's happening, the lights and the camera shots, and you just embellish it a little bit. Kind of goes back to that little bit of that arcade feel. It's perfect for a big time wrestling game. So
yeah,
that's what I'd want.
It's a fun time for wrestling games, I think, with WrestleQuest, with WWE being apparently pretty good, this new RPG, and then AEW making their own game. It's going to get competitive very soon. So I'm excited to see the outcome on that side of things. Our last little before we begin, and we'll talk with the patrons real quick. Hitman 3's year 2 plans have seen a bit of a setback. A new mode called Freelancer was supposed to drop in the spring, but now has been pushed back to the second half of 2022. The main reason I put this in here is because they called it a, quote, luxurious decision, end quote, as Hitman 3 has been such a success for the team that they were able to give themselves the extra time it deserves. So game's doing fantastic, and I'm glad it is. That was my game of the year last year. I love Hitman 3, man. It's such a good game. But Cog, I know you didn't get a lot of time on the train with Hitman 3. So is the freelancer mode calling your name at all? You disappointed by this?
As long as the freelancer mode does not include the DRM mode, then I'll be good. We're going to get into that later, so I'm going to be nice right now.
Okay. Colt, any thoughts on this one?
That's a game I need to reinstall because I didn't give it a fair shake. So I've played the first couple hours of it and then got totally distracted. But friends of mine really, really love it. Like Rand can't stop talking about it when he was playing it. He went and played through the whole series. Like from start to beginning or in beginning to end. So he's like, oh, you need to play it. So sometimes, attention just gets a little wandery.
Of course.
Backlog is big, man.
But I mean, IO is like Xbox. Buy them. And they're super talented. I want to see what they can make. We'll see what else they're making besides Hitman. So soon.
Yeah. Project Dragon. See what's going on with that.
Dragons, oh my.
Yeah. All right, let's talk with the patrons. Got a couple of corrections coming my way, so I'm going to brace myself for Papa Fridge.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Dukes, love the show, but I got to have a talk with Maddie here for a sec. Just saw your Retro Rebound, shout out to that, by the way, video on KOTOR, and it was great. Amazing insight, and always wonderful to hear people talk about one of my favorite games of all time. But you made a mistake. You said the Jedi and Sith were fighting for Bacta and Manon. My brother in Christ, they were fighting over Kolto, not Bacta. I know how much you love KOTOR, but I'm going to have to send a stand down your way for this one. Damn. Thanks for having, I just found out the long dead Dark Lord of the Sith kind of day. Yes, this is totally true. I actually didn't catch this until he wrote in. So I got to hold myself accountable. I can't sit here and call myself a KOTOR freak if I'm going to call it Bacta, not Kolto. I had a Republic Commando on the mind because I was talking about that in that same video, but I get it. Papa Fridge, thank you for keeping me on the straight and narrow there. Appreciate
Shout out to the Star Wars community holding it down.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude. It's a war out there. Like them and Final Fantasy.
All with this, bro.
I'm always at war.
Respect.
I mispronounced a name of a guild in Elder Scrolls in my last video. So people were like, what? I said like Parthenax or something, but I didn't.
Yep.
I love that. That's the best. Like the community is so keyed in.
They're so locked in. Yep.
They got you. It's good.
Dude, when I what did I do? The Final Fantasy fans came for me when I did my review for Final Fantasy X on Retro Rebound, and oh Lord. I like mixed up a name and
hey Neffy, bro.
Oh, bro. It was like for a while, it was all the comments. Finally, like reasonable people filtered them out and started leaving actual feedback on the video, whether they enjoyed it or disliked it, whatever. Just, I don't mind that. It's just like when it's all about like one little name twist. I'm like, don't y'all read real quick if someone has written that in? It's just like, just kept going. So,
you had like a 14-minute video and they were keyed in on that one thing and they couldn't listen to the rest.
That's the funny part. It was 32 minutes long. That's why I was like, why? Come on.
Did you pin a correction in the comments to kind of try to pour some water over it?
I did.
Shout out to the people in the comment section who were there. Like, we learn so quickly. Thank you so much.
We do. Absolutely.
Defining Duke is brought to you by Indeed. No one has a business like yours with all its strengths and unique challenges. To succeed, you need a hiring partner that adapts to your needs. You need Indeed. Indeed is the hiring platform where you can attract, interview, and hire all in one place. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for a candidate with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring partner that can help you do it all. Find great talent faster with time-saving tools like Instant Match, virtual interviews, assessments. With Instant Match, over 80% of employers get quality candidates whose resume on Indeed matches their job description the moment they sponsor a job, according to Indeed Data US. One of the things I personally like about Indeed is that it does the hard work for you. When you pay to post a job, Instant Match shows you candidates whose resume on Indeed fit your descriptions immediately after you post, so you can hire faster. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. So what are you waiting for? Start hiring now with the $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Duke. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/Duke. That's Indeed.com/Duke. Terms and conditions apply. Pay per qualified applicant, not available for all users. You need to hire. You need Indeed. Defining Duke is brought to you by Policy Genius. Life insurance is such a valuable thing, and I get asked all the time, Cog, why do I need life insurance? I already got the coverage through my job. Why do I need it? Having life insurance through your job may not be enough. Most people need up to 10 times more coverage to properly provide for their families and financial cushion if something were to happen to you. Policy Genius is your one-stop shop to find the insurance you need at the right price. Click the link in the description or head to policygenius.com/Duke to get started. In minutes, you can compare personalized quotes from top companies to find your lowest price. You could save 50% or more on life insurance by comparing quotes with Policy Genius. The licensed agents at Policy Genius are on hand through the entire process to help you understand your options and to make decisions with confidence. The Policy Genius team works for you, not the insurance companies. Doesn't add extra fees, doesn't sell your info to third parties. So head on over right now to policygenius.com/Duke to get your free life insurance quotes and see how much you could save.
All right, Dakota Brown. This one's for you, Cog, in a way. Also me, but really you. You'll know what I mean. Hey, Dukes, I wanted to follow up on Maddie's idea of the spoon, fork, knife combination. Unfortunately, this has already been invented by someone from Australia in the 1940s. It's called the splade. Additionally, this is crazy, by the way. My dad's friend created a similar concept and sold it to the army in the 80s. Maybe you can create a new modern version that more effectively pierces, spoons, or cuts. Loving the food conversations and gaming commentary. Thank you both for everything. And this plastic spork from KFC broke after one bite, and I have to use my hands to eat the mac and cheese now. God, a day. So it looks like I'm a little late to the party here, 60-ish years late to the party on the forklift. But I do think we have something, Cog. If you and I work together here, we can, again, nurture the future of utensils. With that, we need to, before you go, Cog, we need to check Colt. We need to know.
Yeah. Yes, we need to know where Colt stands on this. This is very important. What type of man are you?
Yeah, Colt, you have a bowl of mac and cheese in front of you. Are you dipping it with a spoon or a fork?
Sorry, my mic's not working.
Nah, man, you ain't getting out of this. You got to pick a side.
Okay. I'm going to own it like a grown-up, right?
Own it.
Like a man.
I think I know.
I use a fork because when I was a kid, my brother and I used to stab them like we pretended we were like a logging machine. We'd stab the piece of macaroni and hold them up like, look how many logs I got. Yep.
True child. See, you didn't have joy in your childhood, Maddie. That's the problem. You see what Cole said? We all did. If you were a kid, you put them on each spoke. Right, Cole?
Y'all are childish. That's all I'm learning from this.
Oh, that's awesome.
How you do it. You do the airplane sound. Come on, man.
Some of us are born old. I realize I'm one of those people. That's all there is to it. I was born to use a spoon. Thank you, Colt. We appreciate you owning that. May the war continue on.
The war continues on.
All right. This one is from Zachary Parkerson. I just wanted to read this one because it was a lengthy write-up, but it was about one of my favorite games on the original Xbox. I swear on my life, I've never seen anyone ever writing about this game. So I was like, all right,
you had to take this
we got to take this one. Hey, MC Maddie and DJ Cog. I can confirm that Death Row was an awesome game. Maddie asked for stories about the game, so if you bear with me, I have one to share. When I was a youth, there was a local game store near my middle school. One of these weird ones where you could pay by the hour to play console and PC games that they had there. Well, anyway, my best friend Chris and I went there all the time and became buds with the owner. The owner decided he wanted to start doing tournaments and opened with Pariah, an FPS he was convinced would be the next Halo. Just quick pit stop there. You guys recognize that one at all?
I never even heard of that game.
Yeah, neither did I. Next Halo, so around that time.
I'm about to Google this.
Anyway, it was only mildly successful, so he asked for our input in tournament number 2. We picked Unreal Championship 2, and it was a huge hit. So when Tourney 3 came around, he asked what game to pick. We knew it was the moment for Death Row. It was the game we were obsessed with, and we were convinced everyone else would be too. The night comes, and we get there a little bit early. This man had gone out, ordered several pizzas, got a bunch of 2 liters, a spread of chips, and candy. It was the dream of middle schoolers everywhere. Not a single person showed up. The first hour went by in complete awkwardness. Luckily, the owner's girlfriend showed up and convinced him to play with us. Thankfully, the power of Death Row was strong as the 4 of us played even past closing hours. This man, his girlfriend, my friend, and I had so much fun with that masterclass of a violent sports game that he wasn't even mad at us over the money he had lost on the complete bust of a tournament. Just thought you should know, Maddie, you're not alone out there. Have a, this game shop is cool, but the owner's girlfriend is even cooler and also pretty cute kind of day.
Oh,
shot. He's definitely sending her this for sure.
Yeah, this man had ulterior motives.
Yeah. He knew what he was doing. Right now, as we're sitting here, he's giving her the look. He's like, yeah, this is how I feel about you. And he's making his move. So best of luck to Zachary on that one, man.
Shoot the shot, man. That's your game, man. Someone recognizes the greatness.
Someone gets it. Xbox needs to get it as well for back and pat.
We're going to speak to Jason. We got to get Jason on and talk about this definitely thing.
All right. Last little write in here. We'll talk about what games are playing. Pen and Pant writes, hello, Dukes. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is the highest grossing video game movie of all time in the US. In my job, I work with the kids, and they're talking about Sonic all the time and how much they love it. It brings me joy knowing they're talking more about Sonic than Fortnite. With this news, I have a funny story about Sonic at my job. Here I am taking a group of first graders to the bathroom, and we were waiting for one of them to do their business. While we're waiting, this ginger boy asks me, Mr. Zach, have you? Yeah, by the way, I remember being called the ginger. My hair's like gone more brown now, but I remember that. I would take great offense like 6 years ago. Anyway,
6 years.
Shout out to the gingers.
Mr. Zach, have you played Sonic the Hedgehog 2? And I answered, yeah. And this fucking kid takes a couple of seconds and with some attitude says, yeah, you look like someone who plays Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Dukes, I don't know if I got roasted or not, and just stared at him with a confused look on my face. And remember, have a Viva La Croc kind of day. So shout out to Mr. Zach here for really weathering the storm with this new generation of devils. Best of luck to you.
Salute to him. They try to call my man out. You look like
Sonic
the type of damn.
I'll have some more to say on that. For now, let's move into what games we're playing. Colt, I want to dish it to you, brother. What have you been playing as of late?
Like I said, I've been playing a lot of MLB The Show. I'm trying to get through an entire season. Plus, I made myself a left-handed pitcher that made it into the Seattle Mariners, who don't know how to win games. And I've been having fun with that. I've also been playing Fallout 76. I reinstalled it, and I'm trying to find out what... There's like this big group of people that love the game. That it's really... Well, Maddie, do you play it still, or did you get...
I dropped it. I'll try it out when the pit expeditions come in. I'll see what that's all about. But otherwise, that game does not have a regular player in me.
No, I've put like 4 or 5 hours in this past week, and I don't know. I'm really trying. I just don't see it. I just don't see it. Fallout 4 is amazing. So and then I've been playing a little bit of Forza Motorsport 7 because Dealer Gaming and I are getting like really excited about the next Forza game. I've got a racing seat over here off cam that I've been using for other games. I'm ready to just dive in and shift my way to victory. So that's what I've been doing.
Right on. Cog, what about you? I know that one of these games here was held up by a particular outage, but it looks like you've made your way to the land of the samurai. Let's talk about Trek to Yomi.
Oh man, this is such a cognito game. It's,
Mm.
like I said, the gameplay may be a little simplistic, but it is such a homage and a love letter to the classic samurai films. I actually just love the story is very underrated. You know, I'm a couple hours in, didn't get a chance to play it because of a certain thing that happened on the weekend, but we're gonna get over it. I'm getting over it. I'm getting over it.
Okay.
But we'll get into that later. But no, what I did get a chance to play was really the artistry, the art style, the black and white feel, the even to the crackling, like it's a like you're watching like an old film. You know what I mean? Like it's just really well done. And I'm still trying to get my parry timing better in the skill set, but I just love the background to foreground, you know, just the way the world is displayed. And I think they got a lot of potential here. You know, it's one of those things that I'm not going to say it's the most expansive title. It's so deep. No. But if you love that genre, and then I'm a big fan of the artistic choice to use the actual Japanese voices with the English sub like that. To me, that's like authentic. You know, you're like, yeah, you read it. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I love that. Like, I'm a purist.
You should check out anime then.
No, I love it. I do love anime. It's just that
Right?
fiction fate. Here we go.
I can't just let you have your fun. I can't.
You can't just let me. Listen, I'm old, so I gotta catch up to what you new boys y'all playing. What's
I'm
the new?
26. I'm not
You're
that.
young,
I'm not that
Buck.
young.
You be my son.
I was 26 like 40 years ago.
You know what I'm saying? I'm old, man. But no, it's just I haven't stayed into. But I do. That was the thing, man. All jokes aside, man. That was the thing that got me into anime. And I just, what y'all call it, the subs and the dubs. What y'all call it? I forgot what y'all call it.
Yeah. Sub is where your Japanese voice with the English subtitles.
That's me.
Oh, okay.
I love that. I play Ghost of Tsushima that way.
Oh, really?
I don't play with the English acting. I want the authentic.
I love the English voices. That's really cool to hear. Like.
And now in Ghost of Tsushima's defense, when they're, what is it, the Iki Island and all that came out, the update, I said, you know what, let me try. Because I beat the whole game, platinum that game in my style, sub. But I said, you know what, you're right, man. It's not that bad. I was like, no, the English voice is actually, it's rare, but generally sometimes I don't. But anyway, play that, had a good time. Gonna look to try to finish that hopefully this week. And then, like Cole was saying, MLB, man, MLB, Mets is out here, got me feeling good. First place by a nice margin. And my favorite mode code is March to October because I can't do 162 game season. And the way that thing does it simulates based on performance every 20, 30 games. And it's just so much fun. So I'm still rocking and roll. I'm getting close to the second half. Going to make my, my little push and wild card and all that stuff. And yeah, that's where I'm at. What about you, Maddie? What you playing, man?
Yeah, so I forced myself into a purchase. I didn't really want to rock with any new games as of late. I was kind of enjoying my little break away from reviewing games while we wait for some bigger titles to come around. And I was trying to just go through the backlog and all this stuff. But what happened is anytime I fired up my Steam Deck, I got what I like to call the Game Pass choice paralysis. You just see the library of games. I'm like, I want to play you all. These all look so enticing. But I know that money is a commitment I can't just step away from. So I bought Rogue Legacy 2. It was $20 on Steam. I was like, this is my new Steam Deck game. Like, this is the pick. There are so many others that I kept dabbling in, messing around with. That's all I was doing was just dabbling, messing around. I was like, I need to give a game a full run through. So based off a patron write-in that we got last week, I was reminded about Rogue Legacy 2, which is, I remember playing the first one on Vita, and I really did enjoy it because it has this cool mechanic where as you die in these dungeon runs, your heir follows up and does the next dungeon run. What's cool about Rogue Legacy 2, I didn't get very far in the first one, so I apologize if some of this stuff has already been in the first game, but Rogue Legacy 2 was in early access for a while. Now is the official 1.0 release, if you will. And as you go through these dungeons, you build your castle. So you'll take the gold that you loot through these dungeon runs and you'll spend them on like new classes. So there's mages, you can be a chef, you can be a duelist, so on and so forth. And each of them have their own gameplay style. Each of them have spells, but they also have traits, little quirks like dwarfism. So they're smaller, but they jump really high. Some of them have gold boosts that they get, but maybe you can only do damage with a skill crit. So every little heir plays different, and these traits kind of define them that separate them from each other because they're in the same bloodline, but everyone's obviously going to be different in multiple gameplay styles. So I really like the loop already way more than I did in the first one, where the first one was just kind of beating my head against the wall, just running into dungeons where even when I'm failing, because I'm very bad at this game, I'm going to be honest. Like, I haven't played a side scroller since Mega Man Zero.
Skills little.
Yeah, there's always like that rust you got to break off because you play so many 3D games and just 2D is a completely different beast.
Right.
So for me, I'm just still getting my ass kicked. But the good news is that as I die, I'm still going back to the castle, spending my gold, expanding that in this almost Fallout Shelter kind of way. Like, you see the overall castle and it's just popping out in different little pieces. And it's really cool. So you have a feeling of moving forward. They have like an armor system, a blueprint system. So you'll find blueprints in the castle. You'll bring them back, get like new weapons and armor. So it's been a really good handheld game. You can play it on Xbox. It's a console exclusive there. It's on Steam. And so I thought, hey, this looks like a great handheld style experience. I want to play it on my Steam Deck, and this feels just right. So that's what I've done. I have no doubt it'll eventually come to the Switch if it's not there already. I didn't double check, but I thought it was a good reason for me to really sink my teeth into one game on the Steam Deck. So I've been playing that. It's been a lot of fun. Definitely check that out. And then we mentioned Sonic earlier. 20 hours later, almost, I am done with Sonic Heroes. This game was way longer than I thought it would be. Holy shit. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't fucking believe it. Almost 20 hours for a Sonic game. Wow. But when this game was working, it was actually a lot of fun. So I'm going to sit here and confess. Colin's going to fire me, but I think I'm a Sonic fan now. I've played enough Sonic games in the last year to just admit it to myself. Like, I've played probably 6 Sonic games in the last year. I sit here and joke about it. Like, I'm agonizing.
Slander.
But I come back and it's weird. I don't, I've been running through them all. I played Sonic Unleashed, Adventure 1 and 2, now Heroes. I played Sonic Chronicle, which does suck. I've played a lot of Sonic lately. So this is probably my last one for a little bit. I'm really excited for Frontiers. I'm really excited for Sonic Origins in the fall, provided those are still coming out in that time window. But Heroes, I'll have a nice big retro rebound video on. Otherwise, a very fun game. It was just like, dude, I just got to confess this as well while I'm here. I'm out here. I'm in the confession booth.
Over, man.
I played Elden Ring this year, right? My hands sweat infinitely more in Sonic Heroes. It was insane. This 3D platforming was intense, bro. I felt like my life was on the line because this game was so punishing. But like, Elden Ring, I just must be adjusted to it where like I dial in with Elden Ring, but with this, like I could feel my OG Xbox controller getting wet. And I'm like, this is gross, man. I have not been like this in years. So that's enough Sonic-based confessions. Just wanted to let everyone know how that's going. Let's do some warm-up questions. We'll get into the news afterwards. Gavin Alexander writes in, with Microsoft seemingly wanting to cut out sales of physical games, what do you foresee for the future of my beloved collector's editions? I've been collecting the special editions of my favorite games since I was in middle school, and I'd love to own a limited edition of Hellblade 2, Starfield, Elder Scrolls 6, etc. However, I'm concerned that Microsoft will begin phasing these editions out from their releases. On top of Halo Infinite's physical copy being basically useless, the game also didn't release with an official collector's edition. The only limited editions you could find for the game were created by third-party companies, and the items within the special editions came off as cheap and an easy way out to fund out of funding an official release. Do you believe Microsoft will have a future where these editions don't exist? Or perhaps, do you think they will allow third parties like Limited Run to create special editions for their game? As always, insight is appreciated. I accidentally stepped on a T-Rex shit kind of day. Oh. Now, Colt, I saw you make a little face midway through. I want to dish it to you first on what you think about what Gavin has written in about collector's editions, special editions for beloved Xbox games.
Yeah, I mean, I know where he's coming from. It does seem like Microsoft's going away, but really, in truth, the whole entire industry is going so far away from physical. We just learned today that PlayStation's platform is 71% digital on game sales, which is like kind of a number that we've thrown around that like people have kind of crunched the numbers, and they said around 70% of games bought right now are digital. And then Sony was able to actually give this official number of 71%. So if Xbox isn't making special edition, steel case games, I gotta apologize, Gavin. Like, part of this is like the old 2000s or 90s or maybe even 2010s, and that's it. Like, that's a bygone part of Like the wonder, not you, Maddie. Cog, the wonder of tearing open a CD with my teeth, like get the corner going and pull that tightly shrink wrap plastic off and open and smelling that paper in there and popping the disc out, or even a tape back in the day, right? Like those days are gone. And as much as those are great memories, as he brings out a gigantic, I got one better for you.
Oh wait,
Let's
oh
go.
no, we're about to
What
get.
y'all know about these collector's editions, man?
So I mean, this is a bygone era, and I bought this because I'm trying to find the switch on this. Oh yeah, look at that.
There
Look
you
at
go,
that.
Paragon. Yeah.
Yeah,
like
Paragon
that.
or there
Renegade. There you
yeah,
go.
it's
I love that thing.
those days are kind of over, and I feel like there's not much we can do to stop them. I know that people will request physical editions and special editions, even more special edition consoles, and I feel like that's kind of just being left behind in the dust. Am I wrong, guys? How are you feeling on that stuff?
I mean, we and Maddie had the conversation in DDU. Like it was, you know, this the what was the word we used? Sobering realities, right? From an era that we come from, and the collector's edition. And I know how near and dear that is to Maddie. I do share it. You know, I do understand the collector in me, especially when it's a game you love. You want to celebrate it. You want, like, I feel almost obligated to get the highest tier version of a game. Like, for example, Starfield is my most anticipated game this year, right?
Yeah.
Like, if they decide to do a whatever, a robot or
whole ship,
like, yeah, I'm in. They stop. They take all the money. Like, that's just where I'm at when I love something. But to Colt's credit, I mean, Colt is onto something in the sense that, like, Microsoft's whole vision, you know, Game Pass and digital future and pushing that whole thing, it's led that way. And now we have the numbers. Obviously, you mentioned PlayStation. We talk about what's going on as far as digital sales and stuff like that, how well Xbox is doing and the ratio, you know, in different regions on how much people are consuming it in the digital form. I will say the hope, though, for Maddie is I always felt when we heard the news that Limited Run was finally doing something for Xbox. To me, that was a positive sign because to me, it did show, because let's be honest, it doesn't suit their business model to really appease anything physical or anything collector. So when I heard that, I'm like, you know what? That's them throwing a bone and saying, you know what? Let's do something. So what the hope I'm hoping is that with the first party releases, like, you know, we talked about Psychonauts and Starfield, like Elder Scrolls, like with the first, it would be cool if Limited Run or whoever even if they outsource it to a third party,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
I think they could still, there's profit, there's money to be made because fans are hardcore, you know. You see Colt got his steering wheel and like you get a new steering wheel with a Forza car or something. Like, come on, Colt, you might be tempted, man.
Yeah, I'll buy the whole car. No, but when we look back, like, because we've had this DRM discussion like all weekend because Xbox has to step up and fix things, but that disc doesn't fit entire game anymore. Like it's a 50 gigabyte dual layer Blu-ray, and most big AAA games don't fit on that disc. So by design, the disc goes in, authenticates the game for you, and then it downloads the day one patch, which is the rest of the game. So like you're saying, Cog, the Xbox's business model is play anywhere, play where you want. Play it on PC. I'm pointing to my stuff. I mean, play it on PC in the other room. Play it on your console. Play it on your phone. Play it on a tablet. Play it on a browser. And that disc, sad to say, and I know where Maddie is because I have a lot of friends like Maddie who have an incredible, great physical collection. People can say, look what I got. Look at this over here. Yeah. And then over here we have some hors d'oeuvres if you want to help yourself. And here's the rest of my physical stuff, right? But that disc that we love so much as physical collectors holds you back from all of the things that Xbox allows you to do when you pay $60 for a game. Phil, like Phil says, we want you to be able to play that almost anywhere. And if it's on a disc, you can't do that. It really is kind of, unless they did some crazy, they have to do some really crazy things to allow you to have a disc and to load it up somewhere else without running into loopholes where people can say, hey, take my disc. It's the golden ticket because we found a way around Xbox's, you know, DRM policies or entitlement policies. Right. So yeah. Was that Gavin's question? But yeah, Gavin, like, dude, I feel for you. I'm not a physical collector anymore. I stopped that like 5 or 6 years ago. But I've talked to so many people that means so much to them. And I hope COG's right. I hope they just look at, hey, let's just offload that to someone else. They can pay for it. We'll make a little bit of money off it. And those people can get everything they want with those big first party digital or physical
Absolutely.
collectors.
I do think that's where we're heading, because you kind of saw some of that here and there. You brought out the Legendary Edition, for example, Colt, for Mass Effect. And while that came from BioWare, that didn't even come with the game. It came with a steelbook for the game, but they wanted you to go buy. Like, it's literally just a box designed for collectors. And Xbox themselves did it with Undead Labs when it came to State of Decay 2. They released a collector's edition. I remember everyone raising hell, like, where's the game? There was no game in there. So
why did they do that, Maddie? I don't understand the reasoning.
I don't
paid
either.
$140 for this Mass Effect Legend. It came with a couple art pieces, came with the helmet and a steel book that was empty. But I really actually don't understand what the reasoning is. Like, can you tell us?
I genuinely don't know the reasoning, because I can't even say like, oh, they're trying to preserve the earth, because they're asking you to buy the game twice now, effectively, right? Like, you buy plastic for the game and then you buy a second copy with the plastic for the game. So I don't know what the reasoning is behind it, if it's cheaper just to not print the disc. I imagine there is some cost being cut there, or something more efficient for them when it comes to putting these packages together. But I do foresee a future where they are offloading this to third parties. We do know, just based off pretty official leaks, that Starfield is getting the collectible watch, which I imagine will be some type of collector's edition. So I do expect them to continue to do these limited editions for their games, but I think Halo is the start of an era that we're going to have more answers to pretty soon, I'd imagine, on what physical games for Xbox will look like. And we talked about this on DDU, we'll talk about it later on, but I do think with the access to Game Pass and all the boons it does offer, it is the worthy trade-off. I can't sit here and be selfish and be like, my plastic, when, in all reality, like, we're trying to grow gaming here, and that's kind of their future. I do think they need to find a way to satisfy people like myself. And if it's through third-party outlets that are trusted, like Limited Run, I'm fine with that. It doesn't have to be through Xbox. I don't care, just as long as we're doing something that, people attach themselves to Limited Run, not because Limited Run's the only one doing it, but they do it well. Their biggest issue is just shipping timing. Their shipping timing is abysmal. It's terrible.
Yeah, it's rough.
It is terrible. The amount of money they're just sitting on that I've given them that I'm still waiting for stuff, it's horrible. Yeah. But otherwise, like Limited Run, when you get it, it feels like the official thing. Like the back of the box writing, the manual, the person, you can tell they work closely with the devs. So that's why they're kind of the leading the pack. And we know Xbox is going to work with them this summer. And I'm excited to see whatever that is. And if it ends up being their big official releases, then that's awesome. So that'll be cool to see how that goes. All right. We got another write-in here from Jacob Carter. Salutations, Mighty Macaroni Matty and Casually Cheesy Cog. First time writing in. I hope all is well. I want to say that DDU, ILP, and Mr. Matty Plays get me through the tough days when I'm feeling down. Going through a stressful time right now in my life, and I have a little girl on the way too. You guys help me stay positive in a positive mindset when I feel the world is crumbling down. So thank you both for all you do. Sincerely, means more than you know. Big love to you, Jacob. Happy to provide. His question is, do you think that older games are better than those we have today? Or are we sometimes just blinded by nostalgia? I think how much I adored the golden age of games like Call of Duty with the Modern Warfare series and Black Ops 1 to 2. I just don't have those same feelings for newer games. I'm of the opinion that the simplicity of the older games outshines the complexity of current games. Also, graphics don't play much of a part for me. Games just seemed more fun back then. Or maybe, just maybe, I'm getting older. Thank guys, and have a watching Moneyball with Brad Pitt and realizing Bobby Kotick plays the owner of the Oakland A's in that movie kind of day.
I didn't even know that.
I didn't either. I was like, what?
Well, I think about his question a lot. This is Jacob, right?
Yes.
I think about this a lot because when he said he's pointing at the 360 era, and I feel like the best way to explain this is the Xbox One and like games are really starting to evolve and they're getting moving. And I feel like when we hit the 360 a couple years in the PS3, games hit this pinnacle, like where they finally became cinematic looking, cinematic feeling, like the graphics and the cinematic immersive feel was all there at the same time, because a lot of games were really fluid back before that generation, but they look kind of hokey and shiny and goofy. And then the 360 was like, wow, this kind of looks like a movie and it feels like a movie. So there's two things that it hit this pinnacle, this peak, and then we also we chased the dragon all the way up to that point where we got the ultimate of games, Mass Effect, Borderlands, BioShock, Fallout, Skyrim, like all these world-defining games came out during that generation. And then what I feel like the Xbox One and the PS4 era, for the most part, other than a couple of games, were kind of like a remix of the 360 PS3 era, like better, sharper visuals, a little bit better performance, but let's capitalize on what was so great last generation. And then we get a little bit of that jaded feeling where, I've experienced, 300 great games on my 360 or my PS3. And then the Xbox One and PS4 era, I'm kind of reliving those again in sequels. And I think he's kind of right. Maybe games were better back in that generation. I would love to hear the argument against that from you guys, especially from you, Maddie.
I can't argue it against it, because for me, it's one of those things where I do feel a lot of games hit less often nowadays. We're at a point where releases are more rapid, and I think that demands a higher quality as well. Like, a lot of people always go hard on me for saying last year was not that great for gaming, but I really stand by that. And it's I feel like that happens kind of often. Like, last time I thought we had a really bad year in gaming. When I say really bad, I genuinely mean that. Like, it's not just like, it was kind of off. Like 2014 though, to me,
will have something to say with you.
Yeah. But I just feel like it happens, and as we're getting more frequent releases, we're going to be more frequently let down, and we're going to experience that more because of things like Game Pass, whatever PlayStation Plus Premium is going to look like, Nintendo Switch Online, maybe if they start doing something different with their service, where we're all going to experience more games than we ever had the money to do before. Where I do think, there were certain games that we learned to love, because when I was younger, like, you bought it was your only game for months. It's like you had to find your way around everything, and through overcoming that challenge, you fell in love with it. And so I feel like we don't have that nowadays, because there's always in today's society another option just right around the corner waiting for you on an actual, like, making the games, like looking at the games. Yeah, I think like the 360 era, I completely agree with Colt's, like this pinnacle. Like, it was that, to me, it was the mixture of games looking really good, but still having that kind of PS2 game development mindset of, just having fun, right? I think of something like Dishonored, this kind of pastel looking game. It looks it's artistic, but it's also very pretty. But then there's a lot of replayability, and then there's goofy physics. And I'm like, this could only exist in like this particular time period. But however, I look at games that kind of check me, like a Persona 5 is my check me game, where I'm like, this is what I'm here for, right? This, like Elden Ring, this is what I'm here for. Like, this is what we kind of wait around for. There are a lot of great games in the mix, but we wait for those peaks that are only accomplished in today's generation. And so on one front, I'm like, well, I think of games like Elden Ring and Persona 5. I'm like, these are some of my favorite games ever now. Like, they come by more frequently. I looked to last generation. I'm like, Nier Automata, that's another favorite of mine ever made. And, it's starting to outnumber the games that, even as I'm for Retro Rebound going back into my back catalog more and more, it's starting to become that the new generation is outmanning it effectively. So I do think there's a lot of nostalgia, and I have a lot of love for that previous generation. But I think now that we're getting so much output, people are forced to be more creative, and we're getting better products because of it. And also, we're discovering more cool things, like, again, through our community, Rogue Legacy. I'm like, oh, right, I remember this was like awesome. So I think it's the best time to be gaming right now. As a long-winded answer, but Cog, I'm curious what your thoughts are.
No, great points for both of you. I see, both sides. It's tough for me because on one hand, I feel like there were more risks, and you would see more different type of genres, back in the day. And I really appreciate that. And I know we were just at PAX with the Lords, and, we just covered a game called Die by the Blade. And I was like, why am I so excited about this game? It's a fighting game. And I remember why, because it was like a one hit, one kill. And it took me back to Bushido Blade for PlayStation. I'm like, oh yeah, there was a game back in the day that used to do this. So it's like, what I realize is that because of AAA development, the cost of these games, I feel the bigger guys are less likely to take risks because they don't have that financial security if it bombs, right? So it's like that. I think where I'm at right now, where I find my joy in the newer stuff, is kind of like the indie scene. And then what ends up happening is they set the trend, the big publishers see it, And then it's like, okay, we got to grab that. That's the new wave.
Yeah.
That's the new thing.
It takes two, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, so now people are like, oh, people, they like that. We could take that risk. And I even think about think about how PUBG started, right? Battle Royale, started because of this game. And if you really look at it, wasn't the most aesthetically pleasing game, but what it did, right? We know how PUBG was running. but what it did was so cool in the space. And we like, yo, chicken dinners, the map is shrinking. And then here comes Fortnite, and here comes this one, and here comes that one. And it starts to trade. So I think it's where I'm at with it is I still like the old generation for ideas and risks. And I will say to Maddie's point, though, there are some things, like he mentioned Persona 5 or whatever, there are some things this generation where you look at it, you go, oh, okay, this is what I'm talking about. You know what I'm saying? And my hope is for something like a Starfield, where you like, okay, the culmination of all these things has got us to this point.
Yep.
And this can't be replicated back then. And those are the moments. And I'm not even a Red Dead guy, but I know what Red Dead means. You know what I'm saying? And stuff like there's certain moments when you go, oh, okay, this is something different.
Yeah. And I feel like they're just coming around more and more, depending on how broad your tastes are. They're coming around.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. Yeah, depending on your taste.
All right.
Yeah. When was the last time we explored like a big world? When I think about Starfield, like I don't even know how many decades it's been since we explored a big galaxy. Maybe it's been the Mass Effect series, because I don't feel like I got the right experience in Andromeda. It's like, this is something we just don't get often, even because I know you cover so much Bethesda content, Maddie, and like you're covering this genre that doesn't get replicated often. Of course, Elden Ring was a massive world, and we finally felt like we could get lost in a world that hasn't happened in a long time. But when you're talking about Elder Scrolls and a Fallout 5 and Starfield, like these are things that do not come often. And we've seen so many rewashes that are really great. I played really great sequels of sequels and a reimagining of something we played before many, many times. And I've had a really good time. Maybe some of the years haven't been so great. So I don't know, because when you talk about the risk, because back in the 360 and PS3 era, it costs, maybe it cost them a couple million to make a game, and they made, 10 million on it. And now the stakes are higher, but I feel like the proportions are about the same. They're spending a lot of money, but gaming has never been more profitable. And publishers and platforms are pulling in great money because there's more gamers, there's more consoles being sold. It's just an explosion. So that creativity has to be exploding along with it.
Very good point.
Yeah, good point.
Now, Colt, you mentioned how much you love Fallout 4. I think that's great for this next question before we get into the news. Quantum Radish writes in, good day, Dukes. I've got a question relating to Fallout 4. This is one of my all-time favorites, and it was my introduction to Maddie my freshman year of high school. I'm now going to my 4th year of college. Time as a bitch, and that has definitely been a theme for this show. On to my question. Why is there so much slander for this Bethesda game? I think it has many great aspects. A unique detective story, great characters like Valentine, Hancock, etc. Of course, Valentine. And then decent gameplay. In my opinion, a very underrated weapon modding system and the best DLC of all time for Harbor, not to mention multiple endings. Many people's main criticism is that you can't be evil in this game. But when it comes to Nuka World, you can literally lead the raiders and enslave in settlements.
Sure.
I'm just curious what your take on this fantastic game is, and if you think it's just a controversial status is justified, or if you think it's underrated like I do. Also, a side question, what mechanics from Fallout 4 do you hope to see in Starfield? I, for one, love the weapon modding as it changes the look and effectiveness of the weapons, and would love to see what Bethesda could do in this epic space odyssey. Colt, I want you to go first, man, because I didn't know you were such a diehard lover of Fallout 4, so I want to know how you feel about potentially this game being underrated for some.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a massive fan of the Fallout series. I played Fallout 4 twice on PC and on Xbox, and through the DLC on both times. There's a lot to digest from what he's talking about, because that weapon crafting and armor crafting system and modifying and upgrading is it kind of stands alone. There isn't anything that does it that well where you can pick up parts around the world and do it. The shooting mechanics are great because Machine Games helped them hone that in. My criticism with Fallout 4 was they tried to remix too many things they did in 3. They tried to bring in a bunch of story beats or different. They brought in songs. They kind of tried to with Dog Meat, right? They tried to, that was a long time ago, so we're going to let you do that again, or the new generation can experience that moment that was so wonderful in 2008. And that didn't sit well with me, even though I love the game so much. The story is my least favorite part in the Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. New Vegas, I love the story. But the main storyline, I'm like, I don't want to do the main storyline. You're not letting me go out and go from, place to place. So there are not many critiques about the game, but people always say, do you get this in your comment section, Maddie, when you talk about Starfield or Elder Scrolls 6? They're like, Bethesda, it's going to be like Cyberpunk. Starfield's going to get delayed forever like Cyberpunk, and it's Bethesda. It's like over and over. It's like, please just listen. Just listen to what we're saying. Like, hopefully it's not broken, but I don't know.
Here's what we say, but hopefully it's not broken.
I trust it won't be. I'm actually, compared to other releases like 76, I was worried. Fallout 4, I was young and way too hyped to give a fuck. But when it came to when it comes to Starfield, I was. Oh no, that's disrespectful.
No, I like that. Yeah, he's a young buck, man. He's 16 now. How old are you now?
Well, anyway, I don't think it's going to be that buggy. I trust in Bethesda Game Studios this time around. They got the budget. I feel like they got the
Let me stop you there, Maddie. Oh, please, how many like complaining bugs did you have in Fallout 4?
Yeah,
that ruined your experience.
Yeah, real talk. Break it down.
That's the weird part, and a lot of people always put it to fanboying, which I'll totally admit. There was a time period I was a complete fucking fanboy. They did no wrong in my eyes. But like at this point, it's like I just really like their games. And I'm not going to let anyone stop my enthusiasm, but I'll happily be critical of them. But check the shirt.
That's right. You be excited, damn it.
But with Fallout 4, for me, like a lot of people cranked on that game for bugs. And look, probably more than most people on the internet, I have replayed that game dozens of times, like every Bethesda Game Studios game. That's why I'm so excited for Starfield, because love it or hate it, I came back to fucking 76 so many times. Like, love it or hate it, I'm going to come back over and over.
Yeah.
With Fallout 4, I'm not going to sit here and act like I never saw a bug, but my games didn't crash. The worst bug I had was Piper was sideways, slightly under the map, running in place. And I was like, oh, haha, Bethesda bug. Loaded my game, like fast traveled into the same spot.
Yeah.
Loaded my game. She was right there. She was right there.
Are you a save? Yeah.
Absolutely. I save a ton. And so for me, like, it was just a quick reload, but even, I don't know, I don't deny the bugs exist because I know they do. I see the videos that people do, but most times when I see the Bethesda bug montages, like, I take my games very seriously, but even I like have a sense of humor when I'm playing them, where like when a Skyrim giant swats me and I go all the way into the stratosphere, I'm like, that's funny.
Hilarious.
Again, not to devalue the actual criticism of their bugs. They do make pretty janky games, but to me, I've literally never had one that has broken my game, broken my save, ruined my experience. I just couldn't do that. Like, I couldn't pretend to sit here and love them as much as I do the games they've produced since Oblivion and Morrowind, if they were breaking on me that much. And most times when they do break, if they do ever, it's because I'm on New Vegas modding the hell out of my game, and it's because there's a mod conflict.
I just don't think all these Bethesda fans are like, the game's always so broken, I can't enjoy it. I just don't think they're being honest with themselves. I mean, there are. I'm just like you. I know the bugs exist, and I know what's the lady's name in Sanctuary? The old woman who needs chems. I forgot her name. She got stuck up in the rafters of the home in the settlement, and I was supposed to bring something to her, and I couldn't get to her. So she was up there, and I had to like reload a save. I'm like, that's annoying, and I had to search. How do you get this? And a bunch of people had the same bug, but like. Other than that, if you tried to scrub my memory, it'd be like little quirks or something didn't happen or somebody was stuck in a wall or walking in place. And it's like, but that happens in so many open world games.
Yeah. My biggest critique for them comes to 76, not obviously because the game is broken, but my biggest issue with that was a lot of bugs from Fallout 4 that I thought were tolerable still existed. And even to this day exist in 76. And that's where I'm like, you guys got to clean that shit up. Like that's ridiculous. That should not ever be the case. And a lot of people will always go to the modders and say, well, they're fixing the game. And that's one of those moments where I'll agree with them. I'm like, the modders made an unofficial Fallout 4 patch that fixed all those bugs that then carried into 76. And if you're Bethesda and you can't figure that out, and that is there, that is a resource that you have been privileged enough to have access to that you need to find out how to make use of. There's no need to have an ego in this building. And I'm hoping after Fallout 76, when they actually came out and apologized and said they were very disappointed in themselves, that ego has been stripped away. And it seems like the way they're speaking about their stuff now, it has been, which is good because the biggest critique, I think people spiraled from the bugs to really the staff at Bethesda who seem to know it all. They're going a whole live service path. They seem to have the best plan. And post-acquisition now, it seems like they've come back down to earth. They're saying they're making a more hardcore RPG in Starfield. So, I have a lot of faith in their future for sure. This was the restoration they needed. It was the best case scenario. And we'll see with Starfield if it plays out well. And if it does play out well, I'm going to be very enthused because then the future is bright and I can continue to love BGS games unapologetically so.
I don't know if y'all saw that picture just recently with BGS. I don't know if you guys saw it.
Yeah, Phil.
With Phil, they seemed like they showed someone Phil the
that
build.
Was their presentation room.
Yeah, it looked like there's all smiles across the board.
Buddy over there.
Yeah, so we'll see.
I've seen Pete Hines in interviews like all but apologize for Fallout 76. Like it's almost like they say, you know what? Hey, we made this. We could have done better. Like he's almost said that, but even when they showed Fallout 76, he was kind of like, now it's not like I can't remember what he said. But it was almost like he said it's not like a full real game. It's kind of how he pitched it before the big showcase. And so I thought, oh, maybe it's going to be like a Fallout Shelter. So I get a lot of comments when I do Starfield stuff. People are like, Fallout 76. They say it all the time. It's Fallout 76, Cyberpunk, and it's Bethesda. It's like, I hope, like you say, I hope they're really buckling down and making a new name for themselves. Games are
God
fantastic.
Howard. All I got to say is God Howard and the A-Team.
Yep.
I believe.
Yeah, believe too.
All right, so this is a little weird for all of us. Suddenly, we're sitting here with different shirts on. Oh, you got the Starfield gear? I didn't see that. Okay. You may notice ColtEastwood is missing. That's because we're doing, for the first time ever in the history of Defining Duke, a stitch in. Shout out to Ben. Shout out to Dustin for making this happen. We really do appreciate it because this is probably some of the most important news of the year so far, outside of course, the showcase, which now everything changes with this. And we did not want to wait till next week. So patrons, we do apologize. You're going to get your episode a little bit later, but I imagine a lot of you understand. A lot of people in the Patreon section were thanking us for delaying the episode. And speaking of delays, let's not wait any longer. I know the numbering will get off in this news update section of our show, but this is technically our number one. Starfield and Redfall have both been delayed to the first half of 2023. This was posted in a letter by Bethesda on their Twitter account. They say, we've made the decision today to delay the launches of Redfall and Starfield to the first half of 2023. The teams at Arcane Austin for Redfall and Bethesda Game Studios for Starfield have incredible ambitions for their games, and we want to ensure that you receive the best, most polished versions of them. We want to thank everyone for their excitement for Redfall and Starfield. That energy is a huge part of what inspires all of us every day and drives our own excitement for what we are creating. We can't wait to share our first deep dive into the gameplay of both Starfield and Redfall soon. Thank you for your support. Following that up, Jason Schreier had reported on his own Twitter account that last spring before E3, I spoke to some folks on Starfield who were extremely worried about committing to the 11/11/22 date based on the progress they had made so far. Quote, next Cyberpunk, end quote, was the term floated. Good on Bethesda for delaying even after announcing that specific date. And he followed that up on why he waited to say any of this by saying game development is non-turbulent and linear. Even the people working on the project can only guess how it'll turn out. It wouldn't have been useful info last year, but it's helpful context now for what may seem like an unusual delay. Now, what's interesting, Cog, listeners of DD will know we had said first. We were definitely the first to say Redfall, we had heard was going to get delayed. We had heard nothing about Starfield, though. So this is as raw of a reaction as you can get. I was at AEW last night, so I just woke up, saw the news, and fired my way to the office. I haven't really developed much of anything. You've had a couple of hours to process everything, so I'd like to have you go first and just, of course, I'll have a lot to say when I go, but I want to know how you're feeling about the new look for Xbox. To me, the message that I got in my head was the new era of Xbox has been delayed. We have to wait for everything to start still.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is surprising news and pretty devastating news, to be honest. I'm sitting there, I got like a doctor's appointment in the morning, whatever, and I'm like, get my blood work done. You're old, you gotta check on everything, make sure
Of
everything's good.
course.
So I'm talking with the doc, everything's good, getting the blood work, all right. So I'm looking at my phone and I seen, shout out to Lords of Gaming.net, I seen, one of my editorial team say, yeah, Starfield and Redfall delayed. And I was just like, what? Right. So my immediate thought was Redfall. Come on, the Dukes knew. The Dukes knew. The Dukes kind of been putting that out there subtly. We knew about you.
Not even subtly. We were out there with that for a while. Like
Yeah.
we said, that's what we heard. That was
Yep.
the statement, and we kept mentioning it on the show. I'll
Yeah.
absolutely pat us on the back for that one.
Absolutely. So we knew about that, but the Starfield was shocking. Was shocking. And the reason for me it's shocking is twofold. One, it's that they have been very clear with the 11-11, right? 11-11, where, Todd has been, that has kind of been the mantra, the battle cry. And then even though they didn't have an official delay of Starfield prior, right? The thought process is this game was supposed to come out in 2021. So I remember like everybody's like, yo, 2021, Starfield's going. And then we didn't hear that. Now, again, to Bethesda's credit, they never said it's coming out. This was a lot of insider talk. This is a lot of in the know talk. Back then, we assumed 2021. So then when it comes out, when it doesn't come out, and then we get the news, okay, 2022, and then the hard and fast date. And I got to shout out Duke McCaffrey, who we had here in the realm of the Dukes, that I seen the interview where he had Todd on and he kind of questioned him, like, hey, you guys are sure? Is this what it's going to be? And Maddie, they were hard and fast with this date. To be honest, I was even surprised they gave an exact date, to be honest.
That always kind of felt reassuring, like, oh, they must really know.
So on my side, I'm like, okay, they're committed. They had the extra time. Okay, cool. So where we at right now is this like this. Look, man, I ain't going to sugarcoat it. This is a devastating blow. This is a devastating blow. Now, I'm not going to be a hypocrite because I'm all about game delays. In the same sense with Halo, with Infinite, when I felt, hey, if it's not ready, push that bad boy to the top of 2022. I'm not going to sit there and be mad at the fact the game needs polish. I want the best Starfield. I'm God Howard and the A team. Y'all know I'm already in. But I'm going to give it to you. Like now, 2022 looks barren.
Yes.
Like, unless you're telling me something I don't know about, bro. So I'm going to stop there. I got way more thoughts to go here. But like, I hit my boy up. I said, I know my guy's sleeping right now. I couldn't wake you with this. I was like,
I appreciate you not, because I was driving till like 3 a.m. last night. So I was sleeping in no matter what. I needed my rest. So
I said, my guy needed, the only time I would wake you would be like some cataclysmic acquisition or some major shift. I was like, I'm not going to do this to him.
Well, I appreciate that.
I'm going to send him a message, send him the text, and then I want to see when because everybody's hitting me up and they're like, yo, did you speak to Maddie? All right. I sent the message.
My Twitter mentions were in fucking insane this morning.
Talk to me. This Floyd, I want to know how my guy is processing. This is big.
Yeah, this is raw. So what's funny is I always draw the parallels between this game and Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, and it's happening again here. Oblivion was supposed to launch with the Xbox 360, and they pushed it to around March 2006. And I always found it interesting because I had originally pegged Starfield as like a spring game. Mind you, this was, I think we were talking like 2021 rumors. So, or moving into 2022, I could see it being a spring game because they just need to get it right, and however much time they need, that's what matters. And I'll start off with the positive. Like, this is big for Bethesda Game Studios. The last delay I could find from them was Oblivion. They've delayed DLC and all that stuff, but the last significant delay I could find from them was in 2006. Technically 2005, right?
Wow.
You look at you look at Fallout 76, and this is big. This is big for them. This is a double-edged sword. You can see now why it's good to have Microsoft in your corner. on one respect, right? Because I don't think this delay happens if it's just Bethesda and they need to hit their holiday title. And this does make me feel more confident about what they're able to deliver. So I'm very happy about that. Really, to me, the big focus is Starfield, because Redfall, again, for this show, doesn't come as much of a surprise because we've been saying for a while that this was going to slip. We didn't know how much. We heard slight slip, but first half of 2023, I think could fit in there if we were thinking, I was thinking like September, if it stays in summer somehow. So for it to slip into the first half of 2023, yeah, pretty slight. Overall, though, I guess what I'll let out the frustrating part, which is the inconsistent Xbox energy. Now, some people went back on me on Twitter for this, but I was like, where was the energy for Halo here? Where people are like, well, Halo got delayed for a year. Yes, but when Halo got to its 1 year point, it still wasn't ready. And to me, that's where you have to just swallow your pride. You don't got to hit the holiday. And that game is now in shambles. And so they should have taken better care, got it in a state where the content cycle was caught up a bit. So season 1 wasn't as long, and it was a more enticing live service game in the spring, which is now even more important when what happened with Stalker's out of your hands. Halo, you could have delayed with a packed fall last year. And now Starfield and Redfall have happened, where it's like now 2022 is probably more empty in 2021 when you really think about it. Now, a lot of what we talk about this show, the big day one Game Pass games, where we're like, yeah, they have the option to do it. They don't have to, though, because they have these games. Now you got to pursue those. You can't force games out there. We do have things we'll talk about in this show, like Pentiment, like Project Belfry. Those are going to be way more important now, and we'll see how those go. But I think what's most frustrating is for a lot of us Xbox fans who have been waiting for a while, you kind of just have to sit there and go, okay, I'm going to get a better product for it, but we have to wait longer. We have to wait for this new era of Xbox to begin. And now 2023 officially, like everyone thought like, yeah, fall 2022. That's where everything starts. That's where like the rolling ball starts. I guess all I can say before we dive even deeper is, hey, 2023 should be a really good time. But we've been saying that for years. That's what's so sad. That's what's so sad, especially for this show. Like, selfishly, I was like so excited to finally have like the big game to talk about, right? For us to like go in and have something that's really captured the industry. Because outside of Halo, like Xbox really hasn't had that, and that's a problem. So I don't want to bitch and moan too much because, you know, I know down the road this is worth it. This is the right call. This is really great to see Bethesda Game Studios doing. I was stunned because that's how infrequent it is. But also when you brought it up, Cog, like they were pretty firm on it, right? They were firm on the idea, like, yeah, you know, with how far out they announced it, I'm like, oh, they must have a pretty good gauge on where they're at.
And the reason why this is even more surprising to me is because prior to this, we've got the vidocs. We've got this almost like this stream of steady, and I know people are like, yo, but they ain't show no gameplay, and I get it, right? But they've shown a constant marketing cycle that seemed to lead to this, to the showcase, right? And then just, what is it, 2 or 3 days prior, we just saw the Phil Spencer tweet with them in the room, looks like in Bethesda. They're based out of, was it Maryland? They're based out of Bethesda Game Studios. Where they're based out.
Maryland. Yep.
Right. So it seems that they're there. You see Pete, you see Ty, you know, Phil. It seems like they just showcased. So the question to me becomes, was the delay known prior to you walking into that? Or was the delay broken to you after? Like that's what I want to know, the timing of it, because now it really just goes into question, you know, how much time was needed, how much it was affected. And to your point, look, I'm all about making this delay and making Starfield the best it could be, like by far. We already know, quote unquote, the history of Bethesda, the engines or whatever, right? So I'm all about getting a polished product. But so on one hand, yes, I am happy that it's going to get the attention, and Microsoft did not pressure them to release this game to meet some holiday quota. Halo Infinite. You know what I'm saying? But it does, look, we got to just call it what it. We met fans. When you're a fan of a team and you like the organization, but there just seems to be this cloud, like something always goes wrong at the inopportune time. And why I'm saying all that is because 2022. Listen, I got to give myself credit. I told guys, stop popping bottles off for 2020, last year, 2021. They had a strong year. We get it, right? But we say, yo, what are you doing at the top of the year, right? Where's the first party stuff going on? Now, they've been fortunate. They've survived major things, you know what I'm saying, from PlayStation, and then Elden Ring became what Elden Ring became, right? So you're able to survive, and then you're winning MPDs, right? So you're able to survive. So now I'm like, okay, second half of the year, right? That's the new wave. Starfield is symbolic for that, right? Because then you set that off, and then you get the chain reaction of whatever might come. Maybe it's the Avowed, maybe it's the Hellblade, whatever's ready, right? It becomes a 2023 lineup and onslaught with Starfield as the symbolic kickoff of a new era. Now that's gone. Now I'm looking at 2022. What do you have? Like we can't sugarcoat it. The base is beaten down because they've been waiting. This is the generation promised, right?
Yeah.
This is it. We've waited. Now you're telling them to wait again because unless, again, global game publishing, I know we're going to get into all the, the different projects and stuff, but realistically, I don't know what lands that could satiate this base is frustrated. Yeah.
You can. That's the reality we'll swallow over time. That's why I warn people, like, it's a very raw reaction. I think that's good for the show. You're literally getting, like, right as we learn this, you can't replace it. Like, that's the cold hard reality. Like, there's no replacing something as big as Starfield. Like, that was kind of the milestone of the year. And honestly, for a lot of people, while we didn't see anything about it, it was probably the only thing in our heads we could imagine competing with Elden Ring. Like, it's the only thing that we thought could kind of get up there. And now when I look at 2023, I mean, it could be ridiculous, right? If we get Redfall, Starfield, you get something like Avowed, there's rumors of Fable. There's a lot that can come out that year. Hellblade Hellblade especially, right? We've already seen that in action, so you have to imagine that's closer. Like, Xbox can have a pretty legendary 2023, but I'm a big believer in spreading the wealth, man. I really am. Like, part of the idea of this quarterly release was everyone kind of like getting their own window. What I'm nervous about is now we're going to get all of them just in a shotgun blast in a year. And I know some Xbox fans will eat that up, but then it's like we begin the cycle again. You wait another 4 or 5 years for these games to come around. And that's why I was very excited for how they were going to start in 2022. We were going to roll in 2023, have a new set of games to look forward to. But now they're all coming at once. That'll be fun. It'll be a great time to be an Xbox podcast. It'll be a great time to be an Xbox channel. But the fun must wait, it appears. And I think we'll still get some good stuff. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to sit here and crap on games we don't know anything about. Again, like I'm excited about the premise of Pentiment from Josh Sawyer's team. Like that's going to be cool. But again, that the reality is, if you're sizing it up to a Starfield level size of shoes to fill, you just can't. That's just not going to happen.
Here's the other thing, Manny, and I hate to make it console war, Rory, but we have to be real about competition, right? And we have to be real about what your competitor is doing. And yeah, Horizon Forbidden West is out there. Gran Turismo is out there, right? If you come up with a lineup that is potentially Forza Motorsport 7, a Gears remake.
Oh no, Cog.
Bro, let's be real, and maybe a double A joint, and say, hey guys, this is it. This is, and then you still show. Obviously, you're gonna still show Starfield. Hopefully, right? You still show Starfield. Like, I can't get jiggy with that. Like, I can't. Like, that's not. I'm gonna be honest. Like, that feels like Xbox One energy. That was what Xbox One fans were tired of. Here comes the remake of the same old, and no disrespect, Forza Motorsport, and I say this respectfully, you are not it anymore. The people's champ is Horizon. That is the people's champ. The casual racer has what? Now, you may come out, you may look graphically amazing, and yes, of course, I'm going to try. You're in Game Pass, of course, if it is to release. But it even if it's amazing, it's going to feel like the same old, You know what I mean? And no one doesn't want to feel that. And I don't want to just make it negative because the future looks bright. We know about 2023, but for 2022, I'm not excited unless you have something to talk. I have a suggestion of something you could do. I'll talk about that later. But right now, that's where I'm at. And then it just comes. Think about this, Maddie. We could possibly go, and that we're hoping Motorsport 7 comes out. You could possibly go an entire year without a first party release. Bro.
Yeah,
why they do that? And I know, look, I get it. Pandemic and development is hard. I get, but Maddie, you know what the fan is gonna say? They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it. We're Steve Cohen on the like. We don't want to hear it. Get out there and do something. And I got some suggestions, but like, what do you? I gotta ask you this. Like, what do you feel about the potential of the showcase now?
That was going to be my question for you.
Okay,
next.
let's go.
Good thing we're on the same wavelength here.
With the Dukes, you know how we move.
Of course. Yeah, it definitely changes what I expect to see. Now, I will forever be befuddled for why they announced the showcase, then announced the delay. That to me was just, especially when they kept talking about it, because we always say, and it's a proven fact, like silence in this industry is damning. When you're quiet, when you're not talking about your game, it's likely struggling. It's in some type of development hell, or it's hit a pitfall. It's not making progress. So you don't want to remind people it exists, but they kept reminding people it exists. Tweets, videos, the showcase announcement with the Starfield branding. I'm like, okay, like this is the game of the show. And for me now, like the expectation shift is really like, okay, we shouldn't expect this half-hour thing. And the way Bethesda Game Studios has done it, like one significant gameplay look, and then you kind of punt it to the fall, and you just do like intermittent updates through the individual mechanics of the game. Like here's how flying works, here's how travel works. In these quick little 1-minute clips, you show them enough to keep them happy, but not so much that you spoil the whole game. And now it's like, okay, I still think we're going to see the game in earnest, but is it going to be the gameplay presentation we all thought it was going to be? Even I know some people might go from like my wild expectations to like 20 to 30 minutes. And they're like, oh, 10, easy. I'm like, are we even getting that now? I think we might just get a gameplay trailer. I think it shrinks down a bit because they had to have known about this for some time. I doubt that.
Do we know? Like, that's the question, right, man?
Yeah,
like,
that's fair. Did they just finally swallow a tough pill and go like, okay, we got to do this? It's a good point.
Not to cut you, because everything you said to me with the way they rolled out, if you're Microsoft, it just feels like you assume this was ready. Like you assumed, because if you put it this way, if you knew coming in, like why would you brand the whole the imagery, right? Like and then the tweet. That's why I said the key for me, and I give it right back to you. I just need to, if I was a fly in the room, I need to know after that movie theater presentation with all of them in there, was the news broken before or after? Because it does feel like it's a recent thing. It feels like bro, I'm shocked. I'm floored. I didn't see this coming. I swear. And the last thing, and I'll give it right back to you, is that a lot of people were like, and I want to be clear, you know what I mean? The delay is the delay, and we understand it and we get it. But I see some talk now, like, see, this is why you can't be excited for the game. And to me, that's separate. To me, I don't like people trying to douse on someone's excitement for something. I'm never going to be a fan. This is my most highly anticipated game. That's not stopping. So if you think because of the delay, I'm not going to be excited. No, I'm still excited. Yeah. All I'm saying is that this delay did feel like it came out of nowhere based on the marketing cycle and, again, based on tradition of how they've operated. I give it back to you.
Yeah, it's... on the showcase front, I do think we just probably see a nice meaty gameplay trailer, maybe like 4 to 5 minutes. I just can't imagine it being this big part of the show now, and it just changes the whole dynamic. Our anticipation was like, you're going to show us the 2022 stuff, your Arcane, Redfall, your Bethesda Game Studios, Starfield, and then we'll get a glimpse at the future up to like the first half of 2023. Like that's kind of where at least my head was at for the expectations of this showcase. But now it's like what we're going to see that's the main part of the show is 2023 content potentially. And it kind of speaks to the dire situation Xbox is in, that I don't know how much they're going to show. That's going to be 2022. Again, they have a lot of stuff submitted from their studios reportedly, according to Randall Thor. So I'm still thinking it's going to be a good show, but it's going to hit a little different knowing that thing we're going to see. Like there is a tradition that is now being broken up, which I believe at minimum we will see Starfield for its first time ever at this showcase.
Agreed.
And part of the excitement of that was like, it's a let the party begin, right? Because now you know it's real and it's like 5 months away. Bethesda Game Studios thrives off of that. It's a whole different dynamic now, and an interesting one to know. We're going to see it for the first time, most likely. Nothing's a fucking guarantee at this point. I'm going to say we're going to see it though. And maybe it comes out, we'll say March, just based off my connection there with Oblivion. I'm just going to keep that spiritual connection alive here.
That's why I was thinking March too. Yeah.
You know, you land it in March, nice big March open world game. And, you know, we maybe see more of it in Jeff Keighley's show at the Game Awards. I don't know. It's a whole different dynamic now. And it sucks because that's what I'm going to be on a personal note. My girlfriend and I are going to be looking at places starting in January. I'm just like, I told her first thing, I was like, yo, this shit's going to absolutely collide. I know it is. Like, I already know I'm going to be moving houses and trying to play Starfield at the same time. I know this is what's going to happen, and it's going to be miserable. But I give it back to you. How are you feeling about the state of the showcase and whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, look, I hate to be this way, but I feel I speak for a community that has waited a long time. They've been patient, man. 2018 has been the promise. You know, you've got all these game studios, and I get it. I truly do. I don't want to be disrespectful. Game development takes a while. There's always snafu. There's always things. I get it. It just, when you go through a whole year and there's potentially no first party or one first party offering, right? Morale is low. People have been beaten down. You have now, this is what I equate this to. You now have to do, this has happened now. There's a situation where this has happened. And this will be situation 3. Situation 1, Xbox Series X launch. You knew coming into that the back of that box had Halo Infinite, and you knew Halo Infinite was not going to be dropping, right? I said that is abysmal. That is, you don't have anything to showcase this console that's first party. You got to do something to rally the troops. The troops are demoralized, right? And I said, and what's funny, I said, you got to do 2 things. You got to secure third-party deals or get other games, Yakuza Like a Dragon, to launch on your joint. You got to do something big, whether it be with Game Pass. EA Play then comes into Game Pass. Okay, you still got to do something to give hope back to this base. And what happened? Here came the ZeniMax Bethesda deal offering, and everybody go, oh, they got Bethesda. So it got them off the hook, right? For the first half. Now we come into the second situation where you're coming in, you're like, okay, what's going on? You know, E3 and stuff like that. You know, in the first part, what else they're going to do? Morale gets down a little bit. Here comes the Activision Blizzard.
Yeah.
Right? Morale was low. I hate to say that you just got to, it's like if Xbox is dating us and we're the upset girlfriend, you got to come with the diamond ring. You got to come with something. You got a box of chocolates, flour. You got to, right now, we like, you do this all the time, fam. You do this, we tired of this. You said you was going to deliver, and here we go again. And I get it. These are legitimate excuses. The game needs time. I get it's legitimate. We want it to be great. But you've got to do, because here's the thing, Maddie. From all accounts I don't hear nothing about God of War getting delayed just yet. When God of War drop, when Ragnarok drop, let's say it drops September.
Oh God.
Do you know what the zeitgeist is going to be? Do you know what the social media feeds are gonna look like? The reports, the
Yeah,
reviews.
you can't wait around like this.
E-
That's
e- e- exactly. And here's the thing: if you're a fan of the platform, to yourself, you're like, okay, if Ragnar, all right, we hold the foot down, buckle down, right? Survive. But it's November, fam, here comes Starfield. Because I don't care what nobody say. And I will call me a fanboy for Starfield. I'll eat that. When Bethesda 18 games hit, them Elder Scrolls, the internet is breaking. I'm telling you right now, yo, where was you at? Did you go over that mountain? Did you face that? Oh, what planet are you on? And it's an energy. It's like how Elden Ring is right now. People forget the power of Bethesda when the 18 comes outside. That is why people were excited for Starfield. So there was a contingent that says, okay, God of War, you come out, okay, we get it. Boy, we get it. You know what I'm saying? But when that music hit, and then and we seeing a space thing, and this is it was gonna hit different, and now that's gone. So now you sit there and you look. What's on this platform? what are we playing? Right? I'm just telling you, that's what the feeling is. So that's why I say all that to say this. You may have to put another ring on a finger.
Yeah.
You may have to.
That's been their pattern, hasn't it? So you might be right.
That's what I'm calling. I called it the first time.
You did.
They did ZeniMax. I called it the second time. At the time, remember I said 2022 top of the year looks barren. I said Xbox guys are popping bottles. What are you going to do? Here came Activision Blizzard, right? So here's my short-term fix. Here's how you woo us back. You somehow in this, you got to do something with this showcase on a short-term level. We know it's not going to match Starfield. I don't think there's nothing you can do.
Yeah, no, there's nothing you do to plug that.
There's nothing you can do. That's that. You got to hold that L and you got to buckle down. But this is what I say: you do a couple of short-term deals, you do a couple of Game Pass deals, right? If you can, Robert's team, shout out to Mikey Barr and them. Hey Diablo, hey Overwatch, anything ready for gameplay? How are we on release? Where's that?
Other thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, please,
I was thinking about it while you were talking. As now that Activision deal about no exclusives hits a little different. It does hit a little different because we were like, oh, we're taking care of. Nope.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff we're going to see there. Look, again, I'm not treading into console war-y territory when I say this, but there is a identity established on your platform by the exclusives you own. And I don't sit here and want people to experience less games, but I do get excited about exclusives because, like, okay, this is designed for this platform with Xbox in mind. It's going to identify what Xbox is, and getting things like a Diablo was going to be really interesting to see how that turns out. Now they're saying, their plans are to keep as many games, available to everyone. And that hits a little different knowing that you got to wait on everything else that's there. And 2023, when you think about also the Activision Blizzard deal, it's like that's likely going to go through in June, is what everyone's saying. And it could happen ahead of that, but who knows? I imagine given the pressure from FTC, this is something that will take to the maximum amount of time. So another thing to kind of write down on the list of 2023, and I guess that's the silver lining, really, if I could say anything positive, is that, but I feel like such a dumbass saying it, bro, but it's like, I'll get into why, even if it's obvious, but it's like, oh, next year looks really good. But we said that last year, and you're completely on the money that it's like, how do you, it's funny because we talked this episode again in the light that Starfield was going to come out this year. We were saying, oh, people are buying in because they're buying in for the future. We said that last episode as well. We were like, people are buying in for the future. You can't erase that type of damage being done. People can be in control of their own purchases, but you can't erase when someone comes out and says, all right, you've had this date for Starfield locked in since, well, it's almost been a year. It's almost been a year.
Facts.
Someone goes, okay, in April or March when their console sales were high, I'm gonna buy myself a Series X. Starfield looks great, or I'm excited for the idea of Starfield plus everything with Game Pass. These type of delays. This is what happens when your content cycle isn't strong because you don't have much of a fallback now. Like Starfield was it, Redfall was it. And it's not like once those escaped you that you could do anything about it. Again, I give them the free pass all day on Stalker 2.
Yeah, that you can't
do anything about that. Just world events stop that game completely.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah.
You just can't do anything about that. That's not on Xbox. But like this is one of those situations where you're getting the ball rolling. People are getting excited for the showcase. Console purchases are coming in hot. You can't tell me that just happened. People just thought around that period of time, let me just go buy a system. They looked at the fall and saw what was coming. They looked at Game Pass and the success of it, and they thought what could come based off the roadmap of last year with the staples of first-party exclusives. You just can't keep doing this. And I'm worried about beyond 2023 again, because I'm like, okay, everyone's going to shoot their load in that year, and we wait again. And I know we'll have ones like Perfect Dark. We'll have ones like Everwild. Of course, some third-party ones. There will be games. But the idea here was a staggered release of exclusives to keep Xbox fans happy for a while. I don't want a one-hit wonder. I don't know about y'all. I don't want a one-year wonder where we just get everything at once. I don't want that, but that's what it's shaping up to be. And that long-term sucks. It'll be a great year. Again, it'll be a great year. I imagine that those games will at least come out in that year. But I hope. I hope. I do trust Starfield can hit 2023 first half.
Oh, yeah.
And as same with Redfall. Like I imagine they'll hit those. If they get delayed further, I'll fucking shut the show down. What are we doing at this point? What are we waiting for? But yeah, again, on a personal note, it's just frustrating because like on my Mr. Matty channel, I talk about whatever. On Retro Rebound, I talk about whatever. But like this show is Xbox, man. So it's different. It's like,
oh yeah,
the content. It's God.
Bro, it definitely hit. This is a devastating blow. And while you're talking, I'm thinking about 2023. I'm thinking about Game Pass. And here's the thing. There's two things that come to mind. One, with the studios that you've purchased and their push towards Game Pass, right? You need that consistent cadence. You need that consistency. And I'm not going to go doom and gloom like, oh, now everything is in question. But let's just now look at 2023 objectively, right? So you say two for first party, which is strong. Starfield and Redfall. Let's say Starfield is March. You want to say Redfall May? I don't know. Whatever you want to say, right? But
I feel like Redfall will come first. Now I think.
Oh, you think Redfall first? Oh, okay.
Maybe it depends which game's in more trouble.
Yeah, that's true. That's good. That's a good point. A good point. We don't know the sequence of who will be first, so to speak.
Redfall was supposed to come first, but
that's a good point.
Some people, at least Redfall was playable. People were testing the alpha or the pre-alpha, but that's the thing. Schreier was saying the game apparently was pretty rough. So that's the other thing, man. Do we have another? Not to take you off your train of thought, but just we got to talk about the other thing, right? We've definitely made it very painfully aware that like Xbox needs to figure something out with their cadence, but. How do you feel about Bethesda Game Studios maybe having another slightly buggy title on their hand? They call it the next Cyberpunk, bro. I know it's scuttlebutt. I'm not buying all in, but like we got to entertain the scuttlebutt and be like, okay,
you gotta entertain it, right? You gotta entertain it. But look, to me, that's a good thing. Don't launch that joint in November 11/11 if it was you had a Cyberpunk situation. Again, I'm for the delay. I'm not going to be hypocritical because this is the same thing I lambasted Halo Infinite for, right? If it's not ready and you need time, take your time. Ultimately, it's the right decision. That I'm not questioning. The thing now becomes, I'm looking at 2023 as a whole, and now, okay, which one comes first? And then the rest of the cadence, because again, going back to my Game Pass point, if Game Pass is going to be viable, you're trying to get past the 25, trying to blow past that, you're trying to get 30, 50 and all these numbers, right? You're going to have to prove to the consumer that it's a consistent flow of content that for the most part, you can only get there, or you're getting extreme value by getting it there, right? So that comes now, to me, where I'm going with this is the Avoweds, the Hellblades, those titles, because the silver lining is if those two are the first, Starfield and Redfall, that first half, and you have a potential second half with at least one of those, 2023 looks phenomenal, in my opinion, because you can fill the gaps. It looks great.
Yes.
I just want to make sure you keep that, because you definitely need to, for Game Pass to be what it needs to be, it has to have content. And that's just pretty much where I was going with it. I just want to see, with this delay, how does that affect Xbox Game Studios 2023 release cadence? That's my only question. And I'm not like worried. I just want to know lineup, because let's just say Avowed was ready at a specific time, or Hellblade, like, does it, you know, like who should, they're gonna get to a situation where they're gonna have overlap sometimes, and I want to know how they handle that. That's my question.
Yeah, I can already feel though, like the gun shy creeping in a little bit. Like, let's say they lock up a bunch of games for the first half of 2023. Like, we can't just sit here and be like, oh, 2023 can be legendary, because like now it's like, do I want to get pumped right now? And that's you're talking to me. Like, you're talking to me. I never have a problem getting excited. And if I'm getting gun shy, like, bro, I was almost nervous putting out a tweet, because I'm like, bro, I was wearing the shirt. I was so excited.
I came with solidarity. I came today with solidarity.
I appreciate it. But I was like, bro, I put myself out there for this game. I was just like, damn. So it hurts. It definitely stings. One last talking point I have in mind is, you know, right now they just say first half of 2023 for the showcase. Do you think they, 1 month later at this point of us recording this, May 12th, do you think they put a release date on this one? Because I don't think they do. I think you just show us the games.
We've been through the release date. Yeah, Bethesda now. Like, now is not the time. You just say a spring or a summer or whatever it is.
You want even a window? Okay, I was just expecting 2023.
I mean, if they want to go super safe, yeah. You probably if I'm PR and I'm marketing, that's probably your best course of action is the 2023. But back to my older point, what I was saying is, again, I want to just focus back on the here and now, and the devastation that is 2022 right now that it looks like to be. And, you know, I talk about the Band-Aid effect and what we could do. And like I said, if you could call up Activision, I don't know how contractually it works, but if, you know, Diablo and Overwatch or what, I mean, they had a demo, I mean, beta or whatever, like if they're ready and it's like, hey, you know what, deal's not done, but Game Pass, something to satiate. And then I think you got to do, even if it's the smaller one, Maddie. Hey, NetherRealm. Hey, one of you studios that we've been interested in, you know, Microsoft has partnered with da-da-da, right? You're going to have to do something, because to come into this showcase, knowing Starfield is not this year, knowing Redfall is not this year, and the only potential thing, which is not a guarantee, is Forza Motorsports, was it 7 or whatever the name's going to be? 8, as a title, you know, as a service, because I think it's going to be like as a service now. Like, I think they may even go away from the number, from the rumors I'm hearing, right? You know, that's not appealing to the heart. That's not appealing to a lot of the base. They're going to want something to look forward to. And I know you're most likely going to have Starfield gameplay. That's cool. But we know that's next year.
I just think what's interesting about your idea is I even some of your answers, like Diablo 4 and Overwatch 2 were indefinitely delayed. Overwatch 2 is doing a split release now to accommodate such a significant delay. Diablo 4 is likely 2023. So even answers like that are in next year, and provided the deal's done by then, that's more exciting, you know, Game Pass day one stuff for Xbox. Again, provided the deal's done in time for that release. But
correct,
you know, maybe they do figure something out in between that to kind of create the expectation that like Xbox is the place you go for Activision published games. But
you might have to do the preemptive bag to something you already own. Bro, you got to do something to say, yo, it's in Game Pass. Like, Game Pass got to be super lit, Patty.
Yeah, this is good for the showcase, because you got me at a hopeless state now. Like, I'm just walking and not expecting shit for 2022. Like, there'll be some, but like, dude, when you said, God, when you broke my spirit, was halfway through, you can notice my change in tone when you were like, yeah, this fall we're seeing Forza and Gears. And I'm like, no, the burger steak fries thing he talks about constantly. All they need to do is put a Halo expansion in the fall. Bro, I'm going to fucking shoot myself. Bro, like, it's actually going to be,
they're going to come out there with Code Tatanka.
Yes,
Halo Motorsport 7, and it gives me like, hey guys, hey, Bro, we gonna be disgusted. They're gonna, here's your Big Mac, large fries, and shakes, man. Don't you love us? Don't you love us? Xbox One energy. No, that's why Starfield hurt so bad, bro. Because
Yeah,
we were like,
new.
yes, it's a new day and something new. And we're like, oh no. What's that Rihanna song? We found love in a hopeless place.
Man.
That's where we at right now. We need some hope. Again, all jokes aside, you know, we understand. We understand what's going on. But that's how, I'm telling you, that's how a lot of community feel. I'm just going to speak for a lot of the community that I speak to. And people are down. People are down, man. They need something. They're going to have to do something to get the room up. Because don't let God of War come out. Don't let Ragnarok come out and be great. Oh,
I think maybe they just do what PlayStation did. Just take the black eye, right? Just take the black eye. I just don't think you can salvage it. Release what you were going to release. Like, again, we'll talk about later in the show. Belfry,
yes.
You know, release Pentakill, whatever the hell it was called, and you know, get them all out alongside your Gears, your Forza, probably a Halo Season 3, and damn, that hurts so bad. I thought we were done. I thought we were done.
Yo, baddies, yo, energy just went down.
This is all hilarious because after this, I'm literally going to record my video for my channel, and they're just going to catch me at the lowest of lows.
But that's why sometimes the raw reaction is good. You know, you get to see how we're going through, how we're processing. And it's just, listen, you know, the future is bright. It is. It truly is. It is. But right now, it just seems our suffering has been extended.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add in before we continue the rest of the show, sir?
No, just I want to shout out to the LSM community. You know, I saw the tweets and they held us down. They were like, "Please, Dukes." I've never like, it was overwhelming support. Please delay the show. Please talk about this, because they wanted to hear. They didn't want to wait. Salute to everybody. Salute to everybody at editorial, everybody here at LSM behind the scenes that are making this happen, because we had to talk about it. These are one of those moments, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Cobra Command as well. You know what I'm saying? We got the big homie to give the sign off to. So yeah, you know, we got to see how this thing's going to play out. We got a couple more weeks, but these are the raw reactions. This is how we feel, and we see how they adapt to this news. So
I'll end on a positive note, right?
Let's go.
No matter what, how dreadful this year may end up being, I will say this. And I'm sure, like, for the people have already left their comments about us complaining, but I think it's completely validated. I will say this on a positive note.
Let's go.
There is relief that Bethesda Game Studios has been able to delay, because like you mentioned, like, there is a special energy when their games come out. And I do think a lot of people forgot that. Like, people like you and I who hold their games very closely remembered those moments very well, that their games are like, kind of like what we had with Elden Ring, like a stop and play. Everyone's going to play this and talk about it, whether it's good or bad. Everyone's going to stop and play. 76 really damaged the memories of that. And Fallout 4, while the zeitgeist before was strong, once it came out and afterwards, there was still excitement and love for it, but it was definitely like Witcher 3 was better. That's the other benefit here. Starfield going first in a brand new year creates a new commentary, a new perspective. They get to go first. They don't get to get outshined by something. They can later, but the conversation is completely different because everyone's always hyped on the big new thing. So I will end it on those positive notes, that I'm happy to see these games get their chance to do right by the fans. You know, I think what Xbox fans care about probably more than getting games is getting good games. And this will secure a better game. It's just extremely frustrating how it's had to happen.
You're on fire. And that's my final point too, because as much as I'm disappointed with 2022, I want Starfield to be the best it can be. And now you talk about a top of the year. You talk about now game of the year contention if it goes into a lane that we think it could potentially go, right? Now we're talking about all we wanted Halo Infinite to do. Because now, could you imagine with all the news now, right? If Halo Infinite was delayed to the top of 2022 and you had a robust lineup, not that's going to hold you for a whole year, but at least it would have lessened
an answer. Yeah.
And that's all we say.
Yeah. I will throw this out there because I've done previews for Xbox in the past. I think that would soften the blow. to let people, that's one thing Bethesda Game Studios has never done, but Xbox is big on, is letting like press and media, people like myself, get hands-on with games early. And if they could do that for Starfield, to kind of just let people know, possibly, hey, this is good by like the end of the year. Like, hey, we played this. Here's how it's looking. Because they did previews for Skyrim. So it's not like they haven't done it, but that was, a different time for Bethesda Game Studios. That was before their really massive breakout. One of the most popular titles ever. So that's like the one thing I could see them doing as an answer. And if they're listening and they haven't thought about it, you're welcome. Get the hell on it, because that's super important, because a lot of people are losing the faith. Restore the faith. It doesn't have to just always be through the games, but just reminding that what exists will be worth that wait, possibly, provided it's good.
We almost got to change the hashtag restore the faith, DD.
Yeah, I know.
It's too late, though. We got cold.
Yeah.
We in the future, but that's a funny one. Maybe next week.
I know. Well, that's about everything we got for this section here. So we'll go back to our regular program with ColtEastwood. The rest of the show, I'm sure, will sound absolutely hilarious, because I guarantee, if I remember correctly, there's like a million times we talk about fucking Starfield, like the fall picture, the lineup. So we hope you enjoyed this more current segment of the show. The rest of the show is still great. Just we'll definitely sound foolish in a couple of moments, and I'm sure we'll be getting clipped. That'll be fun. So
for sure.
So with that, ladies and gentlemen, see you in the next segment. All right, let's move into the news. We'll actually be able to talk about Starfield a little bit more here. Summer Games Fest Showcase has been announced by Jeff Keighley for June 9th at 11 a.m. Pacific Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. This slots in just 3 days ahead of Xbox's own showcase on June 12th, and it is being defined as a, quote, cross-industry showcase, end quote, featuring game announcements and reveals across multiple platforms. So, gentlemen, we know that, well, Phil loves Jeff Keighley. He loves the showcases that he puts together. He's brought the big dogs, including the Series X console reveal and Hellblade 2's reveal and Hellblade 2's gameplay reveal, all to the big show at the Game Awards. So I think it stands to reason to suggest that Xbox will have a presence here. One of our big questions, I want to start off with you, Colt. One of our big questions going into the Xbox Bethesda Game Showcases, you got so many things to show off. That's the general expectation. Like the timing of development's right there, where everyone should have enough to be ready to show something off. And you look at the Bethesda Game Showcase, and you're like, okay, this probably won't be enough time to show everything. But now when we have the rumor from Jez Corden that Xbox will be at Gamescom, we now have this confirmation that ahead of the Xbox Bethesda Game Showcase, we're going to get a Summer Games Fest showcase by Jeff Keighley. Do you anticipate Xbox spreading the wealth a little bit here? And if so, what do you think is going to be at the Summer Games Fest showcase?
Well, as far as Gamescom, I don't expect them to show any first party or anything major from their second party deals, because they never really have. And I just don't feel like they're going to break precedence there. I don't think they reserved that for Gamescom. So, but they will have that presence. As far as what, because this is the question, right, Maddie? They have this game showcase on Sunday, but they also know they got to give one or probably two gems that will make a major impact after all of the media hype that's going to generate that weekend, right? So they got to give something to Jeff Keighley for Friday night, and you got to give him something good, but you got to borrow it from the Sunday showcase. So that is the tough question. So we talked about this yesterday on my show. We don't think they're giving him Starfield. I think Starfield gets its center stage. It's like the centerpiece of the showcase on Sunday. So what could they show? It's not time for a deep dive at Summer Games Fest. So I think maybe they might show something a second party or third party. It's kind of hard to say. Plague's Tale Requiem, which is launching day and date on Game Pass, which isn't exclusive, but they've got marketing and they stand to get people to the service. So maybe they show Plague's Tale Requiem, but maybe they have one more thing that they want to show. But I don't know if Summer Games Fest is somewhere where Xbox is going to say, here's our one last thing, or if they save that for the Game Awards, which is in December. So they have a lot of options.
Another one. Yeah.
It is so hard to just, we could have talked about it for an hour last night about what they could just show for Summer Games Fest. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
It's a tough one, man. What are you thinking?
Yeah, this is the big question. Shout out to Cole, shout out to XNC. You know what I'm saying? Caught a little bit of y'all. But yeah, man, I think it was This is tough because historically, Xbox has shown that they are willing to put, big titles or exclusive stuff on Jeff's stage. We've seen it with the Game Awards. But I'm trying to think back to last year. And Maddie, correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it Age of Empires or something like that? I'm trying to think, what was the game
Age of
that
Empires and Halo?
So Halo was on Jeff's stage. I'm trying to remember now.
Sure. I'll double check that right now.
Double check.
I know Age of Empires was the one where they did the documentary one in their own show, and then they did the gameplay at Jeff's show. I'll double check Halo Infinite, but double check
Halo Infinite. But I definitely remember being disgusted about seeing trebuchets on one and then the actual game on another. So I remember that. But look, they're gonna have to give him something. I'm actually gonna lead with Colt on this though. I think Starfield, as much as Jeff deserves something, I think if you name your showcase the Microsoft Bethesda showcase, right? You've got to show this is the premier title of 2022. This is the Xbox exclusive. This is the one they've been touted. This is Todd Howard. I could see a scenario where you hold it, even if it's just a light gameplay show, and it may be 5 to 10 minutes. And then maybe after you do like a deep dive or you do something that you want to give Jeff a little bit more with a deep in depth with Todd or, whomever on the director level. But I think in this case, they have, in my opinion, they have to let Starfield debut on their stage. I would be surprised if Jeff gets that first kind of thing.
I wouldn't be pissed, but I'd be like, reasonably irritated on like on the behalf of Xbox fans. I'd be like,
yes. Trust me.
Go on. I was just gonna say the exposure is like, I get it, but I'm like have something for yourself, for God's sakes.
Like literally, I will wait for Lord Addict to explode. Like this is his main frustration. He's just like, look, how do they intend to build their own show if they keep giving everything else to Jeff or someone else? And I do feel I'm holding on it. I'm agreeing with Cole because I do feel from a symbolic standpoint, the casuals still don't know all the way what that means, that it's Xbox exclusive. And until you see it, and let's say it shows well, and it's this stargazing, it's like Outer Worlds meets Skyrim meets, okay, break it down, break the news.
So, no Halo Infinite on the Xbox Gamescom show. They had a full 6-minute presentation at Gamescom opening night live, and that's where they showed off the limited console, the limited controller, all that stuff.
Oh, that's what he got. Yeah. Right, that's what he got. Okay, cool. Yeah. So then it debuted.
And the multiplayer cinematic as well.
Right, so it debuted on it, and I feel they have to. This is their baby. This is Todd. This is you've got to get the casual to know Bethesda ZeniMax are under us. Yes. And if you want to play this, you have to be part of the Xbox ecosystem. I think it's symbolic. I think that's why they kept the branding together for the second year. And I'm riding with that one. I think that's where they go.
It's a testament to how unpredictable I think Xbox can be this year, just because I think of like, if we're looking at PlayStation, none of us are asking, is Insomniac going to reveal their game at the PlayStation Showcase? Are they going to show Wolverine there? Or is it going to be Jeff Keighley's show? It's like, no shit, they're going to do it their own show. Like that's the thing. Xbox is in a very precarious position where it's like, you need to expose these new IP to people who are not Xbox fans looking to come through the door at the same time as holding the right gems close to your chest that are like establishing this is Xbox. I think, Cog, you're on the right train of thought here 100%, that you've got to keep Bethesda stuff to that showcase. By that showcase, I mean Xbox's very own. When it comes to Jeff's show, I was really rattling my head about what you could expose there that you couldn't on their show. And I'm like, do you think Hellblade 2 has been consistently like given out to Jeff? Do you think you finally put a window on that and say like 2023? Do you kind of get that out of the way and do one more trailer?
That's a really good prediction, Maddie, because we're all kind of thinking about the circle of games that are coming from Xbox Game Studios and their partners, right? And you're right. I don't think Bethesda belongs there. And then smaller games like Contraband or Contrast, the fantasy RPG from Compulsion, Project Midnight, right?
Project Midnight.
Like something smaller like that. If it was me in charge, I wouldn't want that at Jeff's Summer Game Fest. So you need something that's like up in the upper echelon, but not so great that you can't show at the Sunday show. So maybe you do finally show something really substantial that we already know about. And Hellblade combat, other than chasing a giant troll baby, would be something like, seeing Senua do that real hand-to-hand fighting that she trained with the leader that does the lightsaber combat for the Star Wars franchise. Finally seeing that in-engine, in-game, behind the controls of somebody from the studio, like that could be a big showcase at Summer Games Fest. It will resonate well, and everyone will know we've seen Hellblade. I can't wait to see what happens on Sunday. And we know the date, right? We know that Hellblade's, spring 2023 or something, because I think that game is pretty soon.
Yeah, it's got to be. Because I was thinking about the smaller games, like Jez had reported, we'll talk about Project Belfry in a little bit, but he said that might come out this year. I was thinking about Pentiment, where I talked to Jeff Grubb on my channel, and he said that also may come out this year. So there's a lot of smaller options, and I feel like with Xbox, do you put those in Jeff's show and risk them getting kind of washed away? Which I think, like, Jeff loves the big bombastic things, right? Like he's an all or nothing. I say that with no disrespect. He loves the big announcements, but he also loves to find like the one Canadian developer making this AAA level game, and he's like, check this out too. Like that's his thing, right? He's always finding the top notch or like the bottom of the barrel, and I don't mean that like quality wise, just like this drop in the bucket. It's like, so I don't think you're going to give them the AA, the indies, those types of things. I think you come in there with something that's known. I think like an Avowed even might be a smart play.
That's
kind of a splash.
Actually a good prediction too. Avowed wouldn't hurt to see that on Jeff's show. Yeah.
I think of, because Bethesda's interesting, because I remember they did, I'm forgetting the order of things, but I know that they would always show up at Xbox's show. This is pre-acquisition, and do their own miniature trailer, then have the big thing over at their own showcase. Like for Fallout 76, Xbox went first that same day, and they got a small, I think, 4-minute trailer for 76 showing actual gameplay and stuff. And then later that night, Todd Howard did his big on-stage presentation. So I want to circle it back to Starfield. Do you guys see a possibility of a small gameplay look, like a gameplay trailer or a CGI trailer, something new for Starfield at this, with a check out more at our showcase? Because we talked about building up their showcase, right? Is that a strong move by them to say, well, let's market the big thing in a pretty intelligent way, give them a first look, and let them know that more is on the way at our show, and you're going to see like another 10-15 minutes.
That's really smart marketing. Yeah, that's very smart marketing, actually, because you want to draw a broad audience to the Sunday show, and with a little tease. And I feel like, man, we've been teased by Starfield so many times. These little round table things, the concept art, seeing Vasco, like it goes on and on and on. It's like, just show us the dang game in action already. So, but that's very smart marketing thinking, is to give them something. But us here, we don't want them to give too much Starfield to Keeley.
Yeah.
Cog, what were you going to say?
I think he can't get that. No, you can't get that one. You can't. This is all bait. Listen, the talk that Microsoft and Xbox have had to endure is that they have no game. We know they have games. We're talking about from the first party release schedule. This is the one. This is the game that theoretically, if it does well, sets off a whole new generation for Xbox. So, that's not Halo, Gears, or Forza, and it's an exclusive. So I feel it is symbolic. There is a lot riding on Starfield on pressure wise, and to me, you have to, in my opinion, the perfect world, you give me the keys. Right, you get on board. Right, Phil, I got this. This is what we're doing. Mm-hmm. You show this thing. You can position it wherever you want. You can put it first. You want to set it off. You can put it last, wherever you want. But I agree with Maddie. You do kind of like a 10-minute. I don't feel you do the big 20, 30-minute, that kind of thing. I think you will lose an audience only in the standpoint because you still want to set up everything that's coming out this year for Xbox in 2022. And you have to give hope for what's coming also in 2023, in my opinion. So I feel you do like a 10-minute, whatever. And then it's like, okay, you want more with Todd? You want more with the team? Jeff can get that. Or if you're smart, Addict's going to appreciate this, you hey, here's the second show hosted by ColtEastwood or Paris Lily or whoever, whatever, right? Yeah. And you say, don't shake your head. I already know you got the inside. But I'm just joking. But you do that with one of your top guys, right? And you say, this is the deep dive. Now you want to know more about the spacefaring, the factions, the races, travel, everything. Here you go. The music's playing, Todd's there, the leather jacket's in, they're in the round table. Let's go. Let's go. I'm hype. I don't know about you, but I think that's the way to go. I feel it's too significant for me to watch that on a Jeff show first and then go to your show after. In this case, the stakes are very high with this title. I really do. I mean, it'd be interesting if they prove me wrong because, like Maddie said, they're so damn unpredictable. You can't really say definitively they will do it because they have shown, Hellblade 2, they have shown they can do it. But I think this one, they got to stick to their guns and trust their platform.
I think this is a year to mark a transition. Kind of put your feet on the ground and say, like, this is what we're doing. Bring people here with quality, because that's what PlayStation.
See your shirt with that logo, that thing pop up, bro, and that music hit.
Oh, it's gonna be a reaction for the ages on my end. I don't know how I feel. I almost teared up during like the reveal trailer, and I don't know why. I remember
getting emotional too.
Yeah, I literally got emotional. I was like, "Holy shit, bro!" Because it became real, right? And that's probably what's gonna happen again. I'm gonna be like, "Yo, this is real."
This is the team with the games I grew up that shaped my RPG history. Like, this is that team.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. It's so important.
Huge. All right, let's move on to number 2. This is a spicy one. Xbox servers have been going offline and players were not able to access their games. This brought about a conversation on DRM and what an all-digital future truly means without any form of fail-safes. Xbox support has posted that they believe the issues have been mostly resolved, but this does not change that for 4 days, some were unable to access their games in an offline state. I want to start off with Frog's right in here and then dish it around to you, Colt. Hello, Dukes. I'm sure this will be a popular topic this episode. Actually, believe it or not, we only got a couple write-ins on this. But what are the odds that you two dedicated an entire DDU to the physical games industry, and not even a week later, Maddie's argument gets justified by Xbox themselves when their servers had problems? Funny timing aside, how is it possible that as forward-thinking as Microsoft are when it comes to Xbox, they released a console where it would become impossible to play the digital games someone has purchased if their own servers fail? I've been a huge supporter of Xbox this generation, and in general, I think they're making the right moves. But this weekend showed me how weak their digital infrastructure could be. And if they don't address the issue, I think they could lose a lot of good faith they've earned recently. Thanks as always for the great content and have a I actually want to play Halo's new season, but Phil Spencer says no kind of day. Oh,
messy.
Oh, that is messy. Colt, how do you feel about this past week and what occurred with the Xbox servers and the lack of access to games? What's your insight on all that?
Well, we sort of talked about it earlier on the show, but it really comes down to Xbox wants you to play in all these different places, and they've closed up any way for you to get around it and exploit the system. And it's also a weakness, like you said. When things crumble, if their service is down, it's no good. So I really think it comes down to game sharing is part of the problem, okay? And it was explained to me the best way that you're not really game sharing. You are allowed to share your library with 2 consoles. They're supposed to be in the home, but Xbox is fully aware that people share across the world. I'm sharing with somebody in the UK, right? So they're good for that, right? It's okay. They're good for that. So what it needs to happen is if my game share partner buys a game, I can play that game disconnected, because the way it works, it's vice versa. I can play anything that he owns from his console. If he gets disconnected, he can only play the stuff that I bought. So it's a simple thing. If they allow you to share between 2 consoles, even if it's just in your own home, when you buy a game digitally, it should ping a tag to your console and to the other console that you have set as the home and away console. As simple as that. I buy Hogwarts Legacy, this winter, and it should go, okay, ColtEastwood bought Hogwarts Legacy. His entitlement runs on this console number, blah, 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 which is right here. And it also goes to that entitlement way over there on that console number, blah, blah, blah. Until that changes, those 2 pings go ding, ding to those 2 consoles. I can unplug the internet. I can load those games up. The entitlement is already there. It's already proof that those consoles own those games, and the entitlement is the word that they use. That would solve so many things. But what may have happened this weekend is that entitlement ping that it has to take. That's why I want to get rid of the ping. And I don't work at Xbox, so I don't get to say this, right? But it should just be something that when you buy the game, when you purchase it, that gets your credit card information, turn around and put that thing on your account until you factory wipe it. As simple as that. So if I load up Hogwarts Legacy on or offline, if my internet's down or if Xbox network is down, it is seamlessly will continue to work. And I think they can do that without having to restructure, because they won't restructure. It's a very complicated system, and it fell apart on them, and that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
Well said, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hear you, Cole. I think it's just this is one of those moments where Maddie is definitely justified, and it was, look, it's again the sobering reality. That's the phrase I'm going to use, which is, that we got fix your face. Yes, but it's one of those things where it's just like, okay, in a way, I'm glad that this happened, because it exposed the flaw in the system, right? And it exposed that, yes, we do need DRM on some level for piracy and hacking, and to make sure that, the system infrastructure is secure. But on the other hand, again, offline gameplay, single player gameplay, these are critical things in the digital system that gamers should be able to play, because there was still a good portion of gamers who didn't even do game sharing, and we're having this issue. You know what I mean? So that to me exposes a flaw, especially in a future where you're promoting Game Pass, you're promoting all these things that's going to be really concurrent. We already talked about the percentage of digital usage on Xbox. We already talked about how they're really pushing this Xbox Everywhere initiative, all these things. You have to have a failsafe. I'm no tech person. I'm not trying to say all they got to do, because I don't know all the intricacies of the system. But what I'm hoping this does, based on what Xbox support statement is, that this mitigation that they're talking about, where they could potentially come up with a solution to say, okay, whether it be a one-time check at the launch of the software digitally that first time, there has to be some form of checks and balances where it's not some 24 to 48 hour situation. Because like I talked about on DDU, what about people in the military? What about people with bad internet? There's going to be scenarios where this is going to happen, and we have to have the safeguards in place. So I think enough chirping has happened. That's the vibe I get right now, that, people are cognizant of it, and it's kind of like, what are we going to do about it, Microsoft? And now it's on them to come up with a solution. I think they will, because ultimately, Colt, like, we do know the family plan is something that they plan on initiating, right? They plan on really expanding the sharing on another level and making Game Pass more robust. So if you do that, to me, that's if there's a change on the back end that they can't do right now, sometimes these things are layered based on other changes on your roadmap for the future on infrastructure wise. Maybe they can layer it in during that family plan thing, or when they make a separation from gold or whatever, but they need to do it.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It's a situation where I'm totally okay with like an all digital future. I just think game ownership is the thing I care most about. And the reason I take physical as my preferred medium is because got it in hand. This is all you got. Like, you can't come into my house. I guess you could, but you shouldn't come into my house and take this disc out of my hand. It's all mine. And you can't do anything about it. But now, as we talked about earlier, we're moving towards where even the disc isn't enough. And so foolishly, I'll keep buying those discs, but we need to have something in place for when, as Colt said, the internet's out or the servers go offline. We need to make it where you're at a point with your infrastructure that I can still access my games, because that's how you'll lose people. You can make all the great games you want, but if you can't access them, that's a problem. And I know some people will, flip their hands and go, well, it's a one-time thing. The famous quote came out this weekend, go touch grass. And Cog went out and touched grass this weekend.
Didn't affect me.
Right. You were trying to play Trek to Yomi. You went, I'm going to go touch grass. I go watch Doctor Strange. I come back still offline. Like, the expectation is, for the most part, these are ready and good to go. And you look at what happened with PlayStation with the infamous PSN hack that had them down for weeks. That happens to Xbox. I know they have a great infrastructure there, but heaven forbid that happens to Xbox. You wipe them out. No one's playing games for weeks. If that's your only console, you're screwed, man. So to me, it's just the ability to access the things you have purchased. like you would anywhere. I don't believe in this idea that because it's an application on my screen that I don't own it because it's not here in my hands. That doesn't work that way. It can't work that way nowadays. I understand with Game Pass and stuff, I think they have a good system for that, right? You know, you could be offline however long you want, just every 30 days, sign into your Windows account so it can check that your subscription is still active. Otherwise, the games will be accessible. Thumbs up for me. Good. But otherwise, like this, where when the switches go off that everyone's gone, we also have to consider the unlikely but still somewhat possible future of if Xbox isn't around anymore, which sounded foolish, but then you see what happened with the Xbox One, and I look at that and I go, well, it could, when Phil's out.
It was on the brink.
Yeah. We don't know what happens when, when Phil's out. Who comes in next? Who has that vision? Do they share the same, like, we need to assemble a team of gamers and go game? Or do you bring Jim Ryan into the building, who's like, I got my suit and tie, let's do business. You know, it's like, that's not that Jim Ryan's killing PlayStation, but he has actually shaped, after a whole generation of goodwill, PlayStation 4 dominance. Some of his moves have changed the outlook of PlayStation drastically. And it'll be interesting to see how they play out, right? He's very reactive. We're going to shut down the PS3 and Vita stores, giving the double bird while he's going out, only to come back in and go, oh, no, we're not doing that anymore. And we're not doing Game Pass competitor. Now we're doing one. Then PS Plus comes around. It's a crapshoot sometimes. So my point being is that leadership matters, and that will change the outlook of Xbox. And we can't always assume they'll be around, even though it sounds foolish to say that now in one of their best generations. And heaven forbid something does happen to them, you shouldn't have your money wasted because they were incompetent, effectively. You deserve to own the things you paid for. It's as simple as that. I think we can have our cake and eat it too. We can still have Game Pass exist with its set of rules, with game sharing and its set of rules, and of course, buying your stuff, most importantly, and that set of rules. I think they need to have something in play. I know they need to have something in play for that, especially if that's your future, right? Your future is Xbox everywhere. Let's talk about that, right? This new initiative with a streaming puck, with this Samsung TV app partnership, both apparently coming with the next year, according to Jeff Grubb. And if you're setting up that infrastructure, how is this convincing to that, right? If the second those lights go off, that you can't access your games. So, Colt, how do you feel about what we've heard so far about Xbox everywhere and this plan to make it where it's not just the computer or the console, but an app on your smart TV or getting a little device that can stream it straight up, and all you need is a controller?
I mean, the Xbox has been saying that for like 5 years. So it's always been something coming. Like, is it going to be like this puck? Like, that's the rumor, that it's like this puck that you plug into your TV via HDMI? Or is it going to be a streaming stick? Or do you just grab your wireless controller and Bluetooth it to your LG or your Samsung and just launch and play? I feel like we're getting to this point. I know we're getting to this point where eventually, this goes back to when I was saying you take your teeth and you tear off that plastic on the CD. And I didn't finish saying that way back, but we miss that like moment of opening physical content. But then again, mostly I love like going in my car, Spotify opens up on the screen. I listen to my music wherever I go. It's on my phone. It's on my computer. It's in my car. Movies the same way. I love on demand right now, not having to get out. Like, we don't miss our DVD player. I don't miss my CD player. And I think we're going to get to the point around 2030 or 2035, which is, for you old guys, super quick. It's coming really soon, right? But Maddie looks at his watch. But we're going to get to the point where we're like, oh, I'm fine without a console. Like, everything works so great. I love this. I just turn it on. I don't have to download a game anymore. Like, imagine that when cloud is so ready, the infrastructure, and the whole system on the internet is so much faster and more fluid in the next 10 years. We could see it because it goes exponential, where you're like, yeah, it was great when I had a console. Like, those are cool. Those days when you pushed the button and you heard it turn on, the fan was super loud, like all that stuff, right? We may never miss it, which, like, it's just great. I don't have to download, install. Patches happen so fast because they're done in the servers, and I think that's where they're going. And just like Phil said, I believe if you own a game, you should be able to play it wherever you want, which is basically what he said. And PlayStation looks at it like, what? We can't do that. Like, we need to lock it down to one console, and then they're moving away from that. So the industry's changing. Microsoft's leading the way. And don't you ever be ashamed of what I said, because no, but seriously, like PlayStation sees it. They're far behind. Michael Pachter said the PlayStation as we know it is going to die, where they were just like, you're only on one machine. They know that you can't stay that way in the industry forever.
In PlayStation's defense, they are partnering with Microsoft Azure. So to me, I know what the talk is, because I hear this from King. Yep. Shout out to Pac. I like Pac, met Pac a bunch of times. I do feel the only time I would worry about them is if they were giving me PS3 stubborn energy, and I don't get that from them this year. I get more of a, okay, we're 1 foot in. We're not all the way 2 feet how you guys are, what Xbox is, with an all digital future all the way. We're 1 foot in. Yeah. But we'll partner with you so that we don't get left behind if it accelerates at a pace. Because clearly the Gaikai situation wasn't necessarily working for them. So now, okay, let's partner with Azure. This is where everyone's going, and they make this great deal. But to your point, Colt, you are right long term as far as this is where the industry is going. Right. This is where they in a perfect world, when bandwidth and infrastructure and Azure servers and server farms, and they're populating, they're more over, and everyone's more in close proximity to these data centers and things of that nature. That's where it's going. And they, in a perfect world, would maybe want to eliminate, you know what I'm saying, the console on some level if the latency was at that point of it's barely perceptible and you can play these type of experiences. So yeah, who knows, 10 years from now or whatever. And we talked about ISPs and all these different things involving and everyone kind of getting together on the same page. That's where the industry is going. But to Maddie's point, I feel that Phil himself has said that right now, even though Game Pass is a big play for them, they kind of exist in this hybrid future where they want you to, if you want to do physical, if you want to do this. So if you want to still promote this hybrid future where you're accepting all these different revenue streams, then yes, you're going to need to have a solution for people who choose to not readily jump into the streaming and all that stuff as their primary way of consuming video games. So it's a good discussion to have. And I love that this moment have, to be honest. Maddie's been big on game preservation, and I'm for him on the where we meet in the middle is I'm for him on like we talk about the museum and just you have to have something in place so people can still experience anything. We can't have a situation where a whole generation of games are just wiped out because someone went under.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We can't have that. So that's where I'm at.
Very interested to see how Xbox will handle this moving forward. But for now, we'll move into Project Belfry for number 3. It's coming from Stoic Games, the developer of Banner Saga Trilogy, and it's reported to be one of many third-party exclusives in development over at Xbox. Over the last week, some new details have made a splash, providing more insight into what this 2D side-scrolling action game will be. To start off on a more official level, we now have a deleted job listing that mentions the following: scaling enemy difficulty, loot and reward allocation, working with ARPG to define all specific weapons, gear, and aspects, MMO or ARPG experience required. Beyond that, we have Jez Corden, who also shared details of his own on the game. For starters, he says that the game has a cloud component, multiplayer cloud servers, and a social hub similar to Destiny. He states that these features may have been canceled, but he doesn't think so, with the exact quote being, "I suppose there is an outside chance that they were planning multiplayer, that at some point it got canceled or something like that, but I don't think so," end quote. He also doesn't know whether the multiplayer component will be co-op or competitive, and that there's a pretty good chance it'll be at the show this year, as it's been in development since 2019. Now, it could come out this year, but he's unsure of that. Project Belfry is described by Jeff Grubb as a game closer to Dragon's Crown in both style and gameplay, with the Belfry Tower serving as a hub for the game world. Cog, how are you feeling about what's going on with Belfry from Stoic Games, the kind of MMO ARPG approach here with similarities to Dragon's Crown? I don't know if you ever played that one from Vanillaware, but
I was going to ask you about that.
It's a very pretty beat 'em up. I like it. I liked it a lot. It was a 2014 game, I want to say, and it was fun. But this seems to kind of build off of a very forgotten type of game here, the 2D beat 'em up. So, Cog, how are you feeling about?
It's like a fantasy Belfry? Streets of Rage or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm like. What is this? Yeah,
sounds that way. I can't say for sure, but definitely sounds that way.
Yeah, I'm always I'm old school, so you know me. I like that beat 'em up stuff. it's exciting to me. It's one of those things I don't want to get too crazy until I actually see the vision, see the art style, see where they're going with it. But yeah, on a base level, it sounds great. And I'm a fan of what is it, Banner Saga? These are developers that did that, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So look, I think the thing that's most surprising to me is that is the potential to be like sooner than later, right? As something that is not like farther along than I thought. So I'm curious. I don't know a lot about it, but the basic foundation of it sounds interesting enough for me to be like, okay, you got my attention. I just need to see how it looks. That's all.
What about you, Colt?
I mean, this is something new. I never played that game. So that type of game, other than Streets of Rage 4 and way back in the day. So I don't know. Seems like a smaller type game that, like, was Jez Corden saying this could possibly release this year? Because I think Xbox has kind of hinted that they have something else that we haven't seen that might make 2022. This could be that game, even though it's not super huge.
Yeah, so, this Pentiment, I think those are the ones that can kind of decorate the empty months. Like even in December, like we know they want to hit every month starting with June with either a big exclusive or a smaller one or a Game Pass Day 1 game. I think we're going to get a similar roadmap, and I think this is going to be one of those bullet points that we see maybe in September. And one thing we don't think a lot about, just building off of that idea, is the things that we already had that are going to come to Xbox, like Deathloop. May not be my thing, but that's going to be one that you'll probably mark on your calendars in September. That's going to come to Xbox Day 1 on Game Pass. So that'll be interesting to see. So I feel like this is one of those pieces that's going to fill out their fall window. And I'm actually really excited to see it because while not a lot of people talk about Dragon's Crown, it just had a really unique art style. And one of the best things about Banner Saga Trilogy to me was the art style beyond the choices that they made. It's like one of the few trilogies that ever did what BioWare did, which is like take choices from game 1, carry it into game 2, carry it into game 3. That was awesome to see. So I trust them as a talented team. I'm very interested to see why they took this route after 3 RPGs. You know, why are you doing multiplayer co-op, it seems? Why are you doing scaling enemy difficulty with loot? You know, is this the... You know, we had the opportunity to interview Graham Smith, and we know that Xbox came back after testing out Nobody Saves the World and went, yo, co-op in this would be pretty good. And they did it. Do we feel, Cog, building off of what we had spoken to him about, that there is that continued pursuit and pushing of online co-op, multiplayer, all that stuff?
I mean, it's possible. I think to me, the more interesting part is this rumored cloud component. Because how is that going to be leveraged, right? Will that be leveraged in a cool way? First of all, for the record, I am a huge fan of Stoic. Like Banner Saga, I love that game. Highly underrated. And the only issue I really had was the art style was great. My only issue was just that I just wish it had so much good story and narrative. I just wish they had a budget for voice acting, because there's a lot of reading. Like it is a lot. When you play that game, then they traveling from one thing, caravan to the next, and you go to thing, but the fight and the combat, I think them with a budget is exciting. I think, to your question, yeah, they probably could pull it off. And I don't know if, I'll put it this way, if it was just a co-op aspect and that was it, then I would say, okay, well, maybe Microsoft said, hey, this is cool, but player 2, player 3. But cloud, to me, it gets me into that Kojima bag where it's like, I think some developers are excited about that. And then we just hear about that initiative with what is it, Xbox Cloud for like almost indie developers to make the cost of entry easier.
ID at Azure.
ID at Azure. To make the point of entry easier, where they can kind of compete and have these resources and these credits for cloud server that they may not have been able to do. So to me, it lends me to believe that Stoic is like, yo, this is something we want to do, and we had these grandiose things, and now Xbox can provide this ecosystem for us to do it. And I think, again, on a bigger scale, that's what potentially excites Kojima with that quote-unquote letter of intent to do something with it. Because I tell people, even though I'm not a Death Stranding fan, there were cool things about the connectivity of the world. He started to play with these hints of a connected world and using the cloud at some level. So I think that's what could be exciting developers on a scale. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. It certainly sounds like a very, I would use the word diverse for this game. It's doing a lot of different things, at least on paper. It sounds like there's MMO elements, there's side-scrolling beat-em-up elements. So I'm very keen to find out more about this game. And again, I trust Stoic. I think they're fantastic. So a good partner for Xbox, and I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing it at the showcase. All right, number 4 is one that got Cog all dressed up for today's episode. A lithograph on BioWare's own storefront featuring the Mass Effect 4 teaser art has the following description, quote, "While Shepard and the survivors are left to pick up the pieces, fans are wondering what's next. Now the description is swapped out for the threat of the Reapers might have been ended, but at the great cost of including Earth itself. While the survivors are left to pick up the pieces, fans are wondering what is next." Now, I will add this in as well, which thickens the
Maddie
plot.
exclusive.
Thickens
Give me that Maddie exclusive.
Oh, no, it's a Twitter exclusive.
Shout out to Twitter.
Mike Gamble, who is the project director over at BioWare, wrote that the original thing was written by people who run the store and aren't familiar with the game. Now, allow me to pull up more of this little blurb here from the BioWare Gear Store, because I'm going to call bullshit on this one because of how... Okay, let me read this all. Shepard's final quest may have ended the threat of the Reapers, but at the great cost, including Earth itself. While Shepard and the survivors are left to pick up the pieces, fans are wondering what's next. Mass Effect will continue, and with the sneak peek poster we got from the BioWare team as part of the N7 Day 2021, there is a lot to unpack. From countless theories regarding the setting of the next game to the bewilderment on whether Geth would make a comeback, eagle-eyed fans have a lot to make of this Mass Effect mysteries from the future lithograph. A Krogan and its four-member team walk toward a Geth-shaped crater with a ship that resembles the Normandy with SFX emblazoned on either side. All this, along with BioWare GM Gary McKay hints about at least 5 surprises within the poster, will make this lithograph a great material for study, discussion, and endless pondering. The special pearl gloss in finish and high-quality printing ensures that no detail is lost, right to the specks of dust and snow on the mysterious crater. And you're telling me that just someone pulled up from the marketing team and just came up with this? I'm calling BS on it. Look, when I say BS, I don't mean like he's lying. I'm calling this a delicate white lie. Calm the masses. Calm the masses before they start running away that Shepard
fan fiction.
Back. Yeah. Now, I want to get your thoughts because you're dressed up for this, but I want to read Michael's write-in. First and foremost, I know I put in a topic, but I love Mass Effect. It's hands down my favorite game, so I always want to talk about it. BioWare has released merch you can get from the upcoming Mass Effect game. I believe they already said in a prior post that Mass Effect had started early development. But on the poster, they have a description possibly alluding to Shepard being your character again. Are you guys hoping they stick with Shepard, or are you wanting a clean slate? I would prefer to stick with Shepard because to me, he is like Master Chief Kratos. He is iconic. But I'm willing for a fresh slate if the team has a great idea. Just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on this. What is your go-to romance option in the game? Hashtag Team Liara. I'm leaving Ashley on Vermeer kind of day. All right. So we have questions to answer about romance. Wakag, I want to get your thoughts on the possibility of Shepard returning. Mike Gamble's putting water on the fire there. Do you buy into it? Let's hear it, brother.
Bruh, we know someone slipped up.
Yeah.
We know someone got excited. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Listen, when we saw, I think last time we talked about this, I think I was on XNC. We were talking about just the Mass Effect, the initial teaser trailer. And I was like, bro, that's a Reaper underneath that snow. If you look at what Liara was going up, that's a Reaper. So to me, it was like, okay, this is a continuation, right? That's what I already got. So it was just a matter of, is Shepard alive? Is he dead? In what time frame of it? So to me, when I look at the series as a whole, yes, I'm biased. Yes, I went to the LSM event. Yes, I named Mass Effect 2 the greatest video game of all time, and rightfully so. But all jokes aside, like they proved that after Andromeda, the dumpster fire that was Andromeda, that people did not relate to the writer situation, and that people wanted the continuation of the story. And to me, when you drop a Mass Effect trilogy, that legendary edition, and you see the public fanfare, the people who are getting turned on to the series for the first time, and all the OGs coming back, and you see the love for Shepard and how much that did well for them, right? Then we just threw it up in Game Pass recently, right? That did well for people who's like, all right, I'll get into it now. They just have to accept the fact that as much as they may want to move forward, Shepard is here, man. He is here. I agree with Michael. I think he's too iconic. So even if they do a Mass Effect 2 where they somehow bring him back together with Cerberus,
that's what I was thinking. Yep.
He's too iconic.
Lazarus Project.
Lazarus, yeah. They're the victim of their own success. Yeah. This character is too iconic. So I think it has to continue on some level. And, if you could bring the voice actor back and get it going, yeah. But I think it's a go. I think they know it. They try to clean it up to keep the mystique, to keep, it all the way up until, their initial trailer. Yeah, this is a go. And what a go it would be to get a continuation of one of the most beloved, franchises. And let's be honest, that ending was controversial for a lot of people, right? Yep. So now we could canonize one of them.
The Destroy ending. Yep.
The Destroy ending. Let's go.
My man takes a breath right at the end there, and the game cuts to Casey Hudson, project director. I'm like, you sons of bitches know what you're doing.
Yeah,
now, Colt, if I'm not mistaken, you played Mass Effect for the first time last year, correct? If I remember seeing that on your Twitter, or was it?
No. The opposite. I played the Mass Effect Legendary Edition from start to finish because I think I've played Mass Effect 1 I think I've played each of them almost 3 times.
Okay, so, I apologize then. Good.
No, that's okay. I was totally. You probably got to where I said playing the Mass Effect Legendary Edition. It seriously felt like it was the first time I played it because there was almost half the stuff that I'd forgotten. The other half I completely memorized down to the tiniest detail. So great experience. It's kind of hard for me to say that Mark Meer and Jennifer
Hale
would return and voice those characters. Ooh. They could, and like Cog said, they could grab one canon ending and say, we're going forward with this. It'd be a quick recap of what the trilogy said and just let you chart out into a whole new situation. Do they revive them and you start over from the beginning and, level 1 and just build your character again? It robs the wonder of when you first become Commander Shepard, but Ryder was so dumb. So dumb. I enjoyed Andromeda a lot, but I just didn't love the game. And what bothered me as massive Mass Effect fans, Commander Ryder was like, well, it's I guess we'll go over there and see why those aliens are being genocided. Let's go do it, I suppose. That was that was the way he acted. And that's not a commander, a military alliance commander of a huge multi-race of alien ship commander. No, it's kick some butt, he was a military commander. Reporter. And they did the same. I gotta say, Maddie, that was also my complaint with Fallout 4. That was also one of my little complaints is your character, the Wanderer in Fallout 4, a lot of times was snarky, I don't know, maybe it'll be irradiated. And it took the seriousness out of the dire, dark comedy that Fallout is known for. And Mass Effect is it's so perfectly done. And they just, this snarky, overly animated, sly answer and everything was supposed to be so lighthearted. Stop it.
Yeah.
Colt has spoken.
Yeah. I was very shocked to see this, honestly. I'm running with this being real. I don't care what Mike Gamble says. I'm sorry. I don't buy that at all. This is now Maddie headcanon.
Let's go. It does sound good, man.
It does, but the way I look at it is from a creative standpoint, we got to be honest with ourselves. BioWare's back is against the wall. We saw what happened when you went off the chart. You did something different with Mass Effect, as Colt said. Andromeda, I don't think it's the worst game in the world, but it's clearly a step down from the mastery that is the original trilogy. You bring it back out of all times now, by the way, when people have been asking for a whole generation. They bring it back now as they're closer to the next Mass Effect, right? Free money, but also that was the first time in ages I saw a ton of people very pro BioWare. And I view it as a creative who, if you have your back against the wall, you got to make the safe choice. You know, people are going to be automatically on board when you've got the OG Shep in the building. I just feel like that's the obvious call here. From what we're hearing with Dragon Age 4, it's a little, back and forth. Like they've gotten some time from EA. They've been able to make this fully single player. They've restructured it from this Project Joplin to something else. So I feel like we might have an Avengers situation there where you're going to feel different elements of different games in one game. That could be messy. With Mass Effect, you need to be like an assassin. Like you need to have complete precision on how you get this right. And I feel like you remove a worry, a headache, the development of characters even, and a certain rapport when you have a well-established one that existed for 3 games. And for many people who've already played through this trilogy, you finally get to right the wrongs, as Cog so perfectly put it, right? For a lot of people, they didn't like even the extended cut of Mass Effect 3's ending. I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but I totally get where people are coming from, where this is a place to pick up where you left off and not end it on a sour note. I do hope some people will relate to this. I don't personally feel this way, but I do hope if they take this route, they don't have this Toy Story 4 level of energy where Woody's just dicking around for a whole movie and you're like, it's great to have you back, bud, but like, what the fuck are we doing this whole time, right? So,
true,
that's something that we had with Toy Story 4 for a lot of people. I still love the movie, and I think that could be a potential situation here for the next Mass Effect. I remember Jeff Grubb reporting it was 2025 we'll see this game, so there's still a number of years out. It's assumed that next year will be Dragon Age 4, so they're rolling right along. BioWare has been more communicative than ever before. It looks like Gary McKay seems to have the team on the right path where they're providing updates. He seems to understand how BioWare fans like myself and many others feel, which is like, y'all just go dark. You show up with average things. Like you need to start talking with your fans more. And so they seem to kind of have a good idea of what they've done right and wrong. And the next thing they need to do is to do the Dragon Age trilogy remaster. That's despicable that they're not even considering that, because it's actually not a trilogy. I'm like, give me a break. They're all connected, but I'm very excited about this. I love Mass Effect. I'm a big sci-fi head. So for me, this was great news to see nonetheless. All right, we got more leaks and reports here. Number 5, some developments on the Mafia front. For starters, it has been confirmed that longtime president and studio head of Hangar 13, Hayden Blackman, has made his departure from the studio. He will be replaced by Nick Baines, who joined Hangar 13 in 2018 to lead the studio's Brighton team. Alongside that is a report courtesy of Kotaku that states a new Mafia game is in the early stages of development. Mind you, this report comes from one single source, so take it as you will, but the new Mafia game is reportedly a prequel that will leave Mafia 3's engine in the past to move on to, like many other developers, Unreal Engine 5. We got any Mafia fans in the building here?
Yeah, I mean, the Mafia games look great. The remaster looked really nice. Kind of wish they enhanced it. Yeah. Oh man, I'm kind of a fan of this. That's another Unreal Engine 5 is just going to be where a lot of major games go. So yeah. I mean, that's pretty believable that a Mafia game coming out. When you say prequel, they kind of went through the eras. I think Mafia 1 was like late 1940s, I think, and then Mafia 2 covered the span of the 50s, and I think late
Mafia
40s and
2
50s.
begins at the end of World War II.
Yeah, and then he goes to jail and comes back out, which was amazing. Comes out in the 50s era, right?
Yes.
Prison, and then Mafia 3 is a gem. I actually just played the heck out of it.
Yeah.
Yes, I just played through it at the end of the Xbox One era. That's a fantastic game. So they're going to go all the way back to the beginning of time of the Mafia. So
it's so cool. Funny they call it a prequel as if they're all interconnected when they're just like different Mafia games in different time periods, kind of like Assassin's Creed. I just find that interesting.
But they are connected.
Yeah, they are. Like I think 1 and 2 has a strong connection, right? I think like with the mission where I'm forgetting the name of the protagonist in the first game, but there's
Vito. Oh yeah, in the first game, I don't remember.
Yeah, the second game you play as Vito, and you go out on a simple hit mission. You shoot a guy like it's no problem, and you find out if you're like me who played Mafia 2 for the first time, just on its own,
I was the same.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I shot the protagonist from the first game. Holy shit! So
I was like,
Yeah, it's awesome to find that out way later. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, that was such a whatever mission, but I'm sure for actual fans, they're like, yo, what? And then Mafia 3, I know they connected back to Vito and in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he was really old. He was like Grain in Mafia 3.
So they got some connections there, but like a prequel to go all the way back to the beginning, I'm like, what is the origin story of Mafia? You know what I mean? And I find that interesting, but I love these games, particularly the time periods. I respect the hell out of Mafia 3 because the way they capture the time period. Like I don't know if this will sound right, but like the way they captured the really like racism and treatment in that game.
It was real.
Yeah, it just, obviously I can't relate in an experience, but
you can when you play the game. Like you get to you get an insight into what it's like when you play as Lincoln Clay. Also, the game takes place in a time when my dad got home from the war, and like that was his era when he was a young adult, and then what Lincoln Clay goes through, and like it helps us who didn't live in that area get some sort of like something, right? I loved it. I thought, gosh dang, this game deserves so much more praise for nailing the feel of that era. And it's so great.
Yeah, it's a really dark game when you look at it. The thing that got in the way was like the repetitive district gameplay, but even that was pretty solid. But the storytelling was fantastic in that game.
Cog, did you play it? 3?
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought that was a bold choice, to have that in the game, to give people just a snippet, right, of empathy for what it would be like for a character in that time period. To this news, I'm excited because it's like Unreal Engine 5. So when I hear Unreal Engine, I'm biased. Anything UE5, let's go. La Costa Nostra, let's go. Let's take it back to the essence. We going to Italy. What we doing? I want to know where the Sicilians was at, what was going down. So I'm in. Like I love that stuff. I grew up with, the Coppola joints, the Godfather joints. I grew up with that Bronx Tale from the Bronx. It's in my DNA. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my Goombas out there. I love this stuff.
Hangar 13 is in a really interesting position because they invested in like a superhero game, like $50 million-ish, I remember, and that got canceled. And there was a period of time where they seemed like they were on the way out. And I respect that 2K is letting them keep going with this franchise, entry after entry. A lot of people thought it was done after Mafia 3, and then they did the definitive editions. The Borderline remade the entire first game. They did a wonderful job with that too. And they get to keep going with it. So something's working there.
Something's working.
That or the 2K basketball machine is just fueling the other beast over there, which could be happening. And if so, I guess that might be a worthy concession, depending on who you are. But yeah, it's just, I'm happy to see more Mafia games. It's like, I remember there was a time period where we had like Saints Row trying to compete. Mafia was trying to compete with GTA. And it feels like everyone's just sort of bowed out because GTA has evolved into this monstrosity, GTA Online, and no one wants to really get involved in that space. And I totally understand why, but it's just really cool to see that this will be on its way back in a major fashion. Unreal Engine 5. All right, number 6. This one I'm excited to talk about. Gotham Knights is releasing October 25th this year and just drops over 10 minutes of brand new gameplay featuring Nightwing and Red Hood. More exciting is that this game has dropped support for previous generation consoles in favor of the newer hardware. Lee Doherty writes in, "Hey Dookie boys, with the news that Gotham Knights is going current gen exclusive and canceling the Xbox One and PS4 version, do you think this is a good sign that devs are finally going to ditch the older hardware, or will we see the multi-gen releases for a few more years to come? And when will we see the first fully next-gen Microsoft Studios title?" I think we know the answer to that. Thanks as always, and I tried to play Cyberpunk 2077 on my base Xbox One, and it exploded kind of day. Oy. Obviously, I think the first one we're going to see is like either Redfall or Starfield. Like it's going to be one of those two. But gentlemen, did you have a chance to see the Gotham Knights 10 plus minutes of gameplay?
It's spicy out there, Maddie. It is. They are doing the fighting of their own out in the streets on how this game is looking. Are you hearing kind of mixed reviews among people, Cog, on this Gotham Knights?
Yeah, I saw some people weren't necessarily blown away as they, graphically as they thought they were going to be. But, for me, it's I love this whole vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like everything about this game, I'm really excited about. When I saw, what's my man name? Nightwing, that he flew in on the glider,
On the
and then
Fortnite
it came
glider.
out. Oh yeah, he had a little Fortnite glider, came down on the rooftop, dude. You know, the acrobatic gameplay style, stuff like that. My only issues, I just want to see. I just hope it doesn't get too repetitive with the combo system. I want to see a little bit more of a diversity with the moveset. But again, it was a quick vibe. I think they just wanted to get the distinct play style between him versus Red Hood. So that I think is what their goal was. I want to see a little bit more, but I'm very excited about this game. I'm hearing rumors. I don't know if it's true about 4 players or I don't know, but right now they've established the co-op aspect. So there's co-op on a base level.
I think that's the target, is to get 3 other friends to play with you and pick one character each, right, Maddie? Is that what we're expecting?
Yeah. I know it's right now 2-player co-op. The report was it's going to 4-player based off the PSN store change, which I would believe. I think it makes sense with how many playable characters and their move into only current gen consoles. I would really love to see that, because that would probably be the flavor people are looking for. A lot of folks are looking at it, kind of connecting it to Avengers, saying it doesn't look as good. I think it looks way better in Avengers personally. I'm more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy as well, so it's not like I have some bias there. But I really thought that this game looked rough in some spots, but the idea of doing 4-player co-op would just be incredible. Like,
incredible.
I'm big on this game. I really am. I'm not sure it'll be what like Arkham City maybe did, that delivery of like, whoa. But I'm excited to see Warner Bros. Montreal finally get a game out after all this time. It's been since Arkham Origins, as far as I remember. It's really just, I'm excited for them to get the ball rolling on what they can be as a studio. This has certainly not been an easy project for them. And I think it's cool that they're doing something that builds off the formula that does exist. And they're getting it out before Rocksteady, which is very wise in them as well. Did you guys think it looked rough in the sense of the combat? I saw a lot of connections to that when I was talking to my personal friends. Like I saw, a lot of conversation on Red Hood looking a little janky, and I would agree with that. That was a little
stiff,
Yeah,
not as fluid as Spider-Man or Batman have been doing for a while in those games. So like Red Hood, it seemed like he was having a hard time hurting his enemies. Like he's shooting them with the little, Nerf darts, and they're like, "Oh, stop it!" But it looks really sharp. Unfortunately, let me talk to you for a minute, developers. Let me just spring your ear to me, please. When you show your games off, show them at 60 frames. Please, we don't care about the sharp, crisp 4K 30 on a YouTube video. It looks terrible. When they were turning the camera, I was going,
yeah. It's like a sprinkler.
Please understand, like video games almost always need to be presented at 60 frames. If it needs to be a 1080p 60 video, we don't care. Like that fluidity needs to be there. And I think it was partially why the combat looks a little rough. You're not seeing half of the animations. They're totally not there in a 30 frames presentation. But some stuff was a little stiff. And Nightwing's overly flamboyant gymnastic moves, and like he had a gymnast finisher after he knocked the guy out. I'm like,
I love that shit. They got me on that one, but
they got me.
I love that. The 3 flips just to land on his head instead of just stepping on his head. I like
just for your extra for no reason.
Just the extra, like he does a clap and the shot comes off his hands.
Yeah,
ridiculous. But I mean, people are split. But then I'm that type of guy. I'm that type of gamer who's like, I'm going to play this. I'm going to buy this day one. I'm not going to give it the Guardians of the Galaxy treatment, where at first I was crapping on it and then I ended up loving it. I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it. So that's where I'm sitting. And then I was talking to some of my other friends, and they were like, it looks like trash. And I'm like, I'm not having this argument with you.
Yeah.
I feel you, bro. Yeah, it's one of them type of games I know I'm in on day one. And I just, like I said, yes, there were some things that I'm like, all right, animation wise, we'll see if they clean it up. My main thing is just combo repetition. I don't want to get into these modes where I'm doing the same kind of things. So if as long as they show me move diversity, and I do respect the people who want a little bit more impact and oomph, you know what I mean, with the nature of it. I get that, but initial feel still feels good to me, and I'm excited to still play this game.
Right on. Game Pass day one. Make it happen. Do you guys think, based off Lee's question here, do you think it's a good sign that we're seeing devs ditch the older hardware and start to move into new gen, if you will? Because I think it's about time. I think it's going to be slow moving given the lacking supply of new consoles, but I'm happy to see some are making the jump. And in this case with Gotham Knights, I respect that it's likely for the better of the game, where they're not able to meet the creative vision that they have for the whole title with the old gen stuff intact, which is why I kind of believe the 4-player co-op thing.
Yeah, and the reason why that excites me is because, I remember, Colt would know, like being a big fan of State of Decay and remembering the CPU being a bottleneck for the tethering, and you can only go within this circle space and kind of thing. So it would be cool if we could do a 4-player co-op and like imagine like really exploring this world, and not being as tethered or locked down. I'm very curious to see how the structure would work in a cooperative overworld kind of experience. So I'm curious about it. And I think next gen, maybe they will be able to do things that they know the old hardware would hold them back. So I'm excited for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it is the weird thing that I think about is the mechanics of how the Batman style combat works is it sort of locks you in and you push one button, right? You're going to push square, you're going to push X, and you're going to do like a couple of punches. Like you're not swinging every kick and punch in the game. You're doing counter and forward attacks, right? So really the mechanics of it is it locks in and it continually cycles different animations. What happens if your co-op partner comes in and starts trying to beat up on the guy you're beating up on? Do you swing through him because the game has the mechanics, has it locked in? You're fighting him, so your buddy can't punch that guy right now. So you just swing through and you'd have to go take on someone else.
They kept them very separate in the gameplay clip until the finisher. So that's a good
until the finisher. I did notice that. Yeah.
Worth monitoring for sure. Good point.
It's a good point, Cole. It's a good point to see how they handle that. Yep.
Number 7, this was sent to me right after the recording of last week's episode. Cog was feeling a little spicy when he was like, oh man, they're mad. So the Game Bakers is a small development team responsible for Furi and Haven, both available on Game Pass at one point or another. And they have stated that they prioritize the development of other ports for Furi, specifically its PS5 upgrade, which was not put on the Xbox version. As the developer's official Twitter account, it stated that the game never really gained traction on Xbox, so they had to allocate resources properly. A lot of people were very displeased by this one. Cog, since you sent this to me, I want to give you the honor of going first. What do you feel about what happened here with the Game Bakers?
Yeah, this is a hot discussion on IOP this Sunday. One, for the record, if you're indie studio or whatever and resources limited, I always have respect for that, right? I always say, okay, they're a small team, you're going to put it out on a platform that it does well for. I guess where I struggled with it was that it came to my attention that the DLC is free. So if the DLC is free, and I would be a little more empathetic if they were like, hey, it's only going to PlayStation because we only have the resources to do it here. I'll actually be more empathetic. But I'm like, okay, Switch is getting it. PC is getting it. And I'm like, again, I don't want to be disrespectful. I don't know that studio. It just feels weird to me. I've never seen this. And then the other thing that let's just say, okay, so Xbox, the statement was that it did not do well for them, right? Financially. But you took a Game Pass bag with Haven after the fact, because this game came out, 6 years? This game came out a while ago.
2016. Yeah.
So, right. So if 2016 it came out, it didn't do well back then. This is during, and this is before Game Pass existed. Mm-hmm. Right. So, because I'm seeing this narrative because of Game Pass, this is why this came out before game, and they took a PSN bag, from my understanding, to get this game out there. So I'm not buying that narrative. My whole thing is this. If I bought this game on Xbox in 2016 and I'm seeing every other platform get DLC except mine, and this DLC is free, I feel away. If I'm an owner on that platform, I'm empathetic if you say, hey, at this time, and they did in their defense, they did say, right, no plans at this time, right? But again, it's hard sell to a community that you're not going to get this new content that is free. So I do struggle with this one. And I'm usually, you know me, God, I'm always nice. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel weird about this because you took a Game Pass bag after the fact from Xbox. So clearly it wasn't a platform that you don't want to deal with because clearly, okay, let's call it what it is. Like you took a bag. So I'm not as empathetic in this case to Furi's plight. And I would like to know how this plays out.
Yeah, I feel like this will hopefully be less of a problem for Xbox over time. You know, I definitely understand. It's tough because I understand where this team is coming from, where I think of the JRPG issue right away, right? Like we see that constantly. Why are you choosing PlayStation? Why are you choosing Switch? None of y'all are buying JRPGs on Xbox. That's why. So they don't see value in bringing it there. The difference is they saw enough value to bring it to the platform. Yes, that's no, you're 100% correct on that as well. You know, someone needs to bite big to get people to buy into like the JRPG thing. But that's a separate conversation.
Isn't there like an obvious answer though, Maddie? In the 360 era, there were more JRPGs on the 360. The 360 was the market leader. It was the most popular console next to the Wii, right? So when you look at the Xbox One, it was not popular at all. It missed so many games. And I often asked back in the day, I'm like, why are these games not coming to Xbox? And it just seemed like Xbox didn't have the power to get those games or the money or the priority or whatever it was. But you were literally in a generation when you could go into a GameStop or a Walmart and the employee would say, I wouldn't get an Xbox. Now, that is not the case. So when this Furi developer says, look, we couldn't get the support we could on the Xbox. I'm like, you're talking about the Xbox One generation, which was very small and not popular, not desired. Now the Xbox platform is massively desired, blowing up in Japan like never before. So you can't look at the Xbox One generation and say, you know, we don't have the time and the money to build the game because that platform, that old bygone platform, is not sustainable for us to continue to support with DLC. I think it's the wrong answer. It's like now is the time to say we can eke out a little more of our people power to get this on the Xbox and get, you know, a few thousand more or 20,000 more sales or whatever they're going to get on a smaller title like that not a lot of people had really, the mainstream hadn't really heard of much of at this point.
I do think they made a short-sighted decision here because I do think if they, we don't know the cost of it currently, but
correct.
I do want to take an honest look at it and say, well, let's say you overextend a little bit. I think it would be kind of more impactful and risk you losing a ton more customers if you come out and say like, hey, we went a little over budget for this. We'd appreciate you checking it out. I think the internet is sympathetic in that way. I think of Unsighted, one of my favorite games of last year that I promoted. And that was promoted because someone said, oh, it's a real shame. Like our game really hasn't been hitting any of the right algorithm. No one's pushing it. No one's promoting it. We just appreciate you giving it a look. It's made by 2 people. And it blew up because people were like, whoa, this is by 2 people. So I do think while gamers are typically branded as like evil people, there are a lot of good people out there. And I think this is where a moment where you could have overextended and probably won some goodwill, but now you've likely lost a lot of customers, and you better hope that PlayStation and Nintendo are willing to help you out, because a lot of Xbox fans are going to see this and go, I'm okay.
Right, and I want to be clear. Like I know there's a lot of people say, hey, look, this is the business, it's about sales, and I'm not trying to, you know, discredit that or minimize that. Look, if they have the numbers and it shows that, okay, in that generation, you know, clearly the Xbox numbers were lower, I get that. I just struggle. I would love for a developer to answer this for me. I just struggle if you have the development kits for all these other platforms and you're not even going to profit off of this free DLC. This is free DLC. Like, I struggle with that. Please explain. I just need someone to explain the process of porting on this other extra. Is it the cost of entry just to create it? Like, what is preventing you from doing that you could do this with these other platforms? I just struggle with that. So unless someone comes up with a good explanation, I'll back off my stance. But that's just where I'm at right now based on the information I have right now.
Lawbreakers, right? Lawbreakers. Like, Cliff Bleszinski straight up said, we don't have the people and the money to put the game on Xbox. And he said, we made that decision. So they made a PC port. They made a PlayStation port. And Xbox wasn't the reason why that game didn't hit. It had other problems, but it always makes, because we'll never know the answer because we don't get to talk to enough devs. What is it really? Like, is it the people power, the hours of time you're going to put in?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a simple equation? Like, we're going to put this much time and money into the Xbox version and we only expect to sell this many and it's a wash, or we don't make it back. So we make the decision and we're not going to change that. So I think,
and I totally get that. And I totally get that. I guess where I struggle with is historically, when you see situations like this with, like, for example, the Persona, the Atlas stuff or whatever, right? Where it's like, there's a consciousness, look, it doesn't sell well over there. I get it. Business. I get that. Right. But then I struggle that because if that platform is a dying platform, then why are you over there taking Game Pass bags? And if you took the Game Pass bag from a relationship standpoint, it doesn't serve you well from an optic standpoint. After you took a bag from a platform you said is not great, to then remove them from this equation in this, I think goodwill would, if you could, if finances were not the issue, that it would serve them well optically with Microsoft to somehow make this happen at some point in the future. That's just me.
Yeah, I will offer the insight that with
game dev,
well, just a little bit, because like I'm still learning some of the ins and outs. I do know with controller mapping specifically, it's not as easy as people think. Like, even though you might have the same amount of inputs on PlayStation and Xbox, it does take a while to set up. That's not something that just you plug in and it works on Unreal Engine. That's the one caveat there. You can on Game Maker, on Unity, you can just plug it in while you're testing and it'll work as is. I do know you still need to set it up to some extent, but with Unreal Engine, that is not a built-in support. I don't know why, it's just not. So that's particularly annoying. So that's definitely something worth considering on the port side of things, depending on what engine they're using. I'm not sure what engine Furi had used.
Yeah, we know what engine they're using.
But just food for thought on that one for future conversation.
That's a good point, though, Matty. That's a good point. And I full disclosure, I don't know what's going on in that studio.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, I'm not trying to defend them, because I do sit on the side of the fence that, like, it is business. Like, if you're looking at the numbers and you're like, well, we have 500 players on Xbox annually for Furi. And I know it's a woefully low number, but I think it's got to be woefully low for them to genuinely come out and say
Unity.
It is Unity. So yeah, then that wouldn't be too much of a problem for them, I don't think. But for them to come out and say, like, yeah, we didn't support it because no one's really playing it there. And you could see a vocal minority pop out from that. Like, that's very much a realistic possibility. So I'd love to see the numbers. I'd love to see more conversation on that, but we'll probably never get it.
Yeah.
All right. Time for our Game Pass back compat pick of the week. Colt, you're our guest, so we wanted to let you have the honors this week. What have you selected for people to play on Game Pass this week?
Oh, man. It's Grounded, baby. It's Grounded. It's the gem. It is the gem that I made fun of. I love the game so much. There's an update, bugs strike back. Like, the game is such a gem. It is an RPG of RPGs dressed up as a kid's game. Scares the crap out of me. It's so amazing. This team's so talented. I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't know what to say. If you're listening, please just give it a chance. It's so awesome. I made fun of it. Let me just say that. I made fun of it so much, and I love it. So it really did something.
What captured you then? What you said, like, it's an RPG. I know they added that type of stuff to the game, like the stat building based off what you're equipping. But, like, what got you where you're like, damn, I was wrong?
Yeah, well, I mean, they fixed some things that were really annoying that made the game, like, not intuitive or not fun. Like, if you died, your backpack dropped in all of your gear and whatever weapon, and you had to go out barehanded and try and get your stuff back while a bug was sitting there guarding it. That was so dumb. But there's weapon tiers and creature tiers, and when you knock something down, you can craft better gear. And so there's different tiers of weapons and tools and armor, and then you can level them up with like ingots and stuff. But it's all like bug and microscopic. It's so great. And it's got this whole thing that people don't know, but Zachary Levi, who is a Chuck, who is also Flynn Rider from Tangled, he voices the mad scientist that caused this whole shrinking thing. And you go into these scientific shrunk labs that are underground and way up high in a tree, and you just go through them. And I never expected the game to be so awesome. I play it with my 3 kids. I have a 10-year-old and a 15-year-old. One's in one room, the other one's in another room. We're all on Xbox Live on great wireless headsets, and we yell and scream when we get scared by spiders and stuff. Unbelievable! I just can't say enough. What a gem!
Oh, good awesome. Pick, man.
Love that.
I gotta shout you out because I gotta call myself to the coffee. Like I gotta call fraud on myself because I'm with you, Cole. I remember seeing the announcement. Remember, I am Team Obsidian. Like Obsidian is my heart. Like in my opinion, they're the number 1 draft pick. Xbox Game Studio. They're my guy. So I'm ready. Like new game from Obsidian. I'm like, all right, cool. And I seen Grounded, and I said, oh no. I was like, what are they doing? What is going on? Who wants this? This is no one's gonna buy it. This is a mistake. Yeah. And I see this thing take off. Then I said, I'm gonna try. Let me see what the hype is. And I don't even like survival type games in that sense. And I have to admit, the art style, and then it was for me because it was like survival for dummies. All right, first get a stick, do this, go out there, and I'm like, oh, I can deal with this. Yeah. It's not as intimidating. And then obviously the cooperative aspect, like you talk about, you play with your kids, stuff like that.
Amazing.
Shout out to that team. You know, I got this wrong. They did tremendous numbers. Like to me, I was glad I was wrong. It showed me the greatness of my old team. I was like, they can do anything.
Yeah, it really did.
Shout out to Obsidian.
Yeah, I love that it's a very small team, so you kind of enjoy it without guilt, knowing like 76. When I was like playing it, trying to find enjoyment, I'm like, y'all aren't working on anything else right now. But like with Obsidian and Grounded, you're like in there going, oh, it's only 12 of you, and you're all working on RPGs. That's great. This game's great. But in all seriousness, it has improved a lot over the years. It really has. I never was against it when it was revealed. It was like, yeah, okay, it's not.
Bro, I rioted in the streets, bro. I wanted blood. I was like, what are you doing? I was like, we don't.
We were made fun of as Xbox fans because it looked so dorky. There was a kid going. With his bro,
it was the butt of jokes. Like this is what Xbox is. It was. And I fell victim, and I didn't until I played it, and I was like, no, this is. It's
got an undeniable charm for sure.
Yes,
I really do like. And hearing you talk about those labs, Colt, was one thing that I remember when I played it in the initial early access period. I was very curious how they would expand that. So that's something I want to go back to. Hey, speaking of the showcases and stuff, that's definitely like the 1.0 release should definitely happen this year.
Yeah, it's got to
I feel like that's a guarantee at this point. Patrick Pruitt also writes in with a Game Pass suggestion. Gentlemen, I want to give a shout out to Tunic on Game Pass. I'm at the ass end of the game, and I've already got a strong recommendation. It's a great blend of classic Zelda vibes mixed with some Dark Souls and Elden Ring mechanics. One of the coolest things the game does is brings back old school game manuals in a very clever way. You find pages throughout the game that explain new mechanics, and you really have to look through to figure it out, whatever you're supposed to be doing. All that, plus it's a really beautiful world. That's all I got. Have a shit day. Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate you.
All right.
Have you guys had it? Yeah, I was going to ask you if anyone had a chance to play Tunic yet.
I have not. Man,
I've got a couple hours into it. Yeah, he explains it perfectly. And I couldn't get into it because I was still playing Elden Ring. It's like Elden Ring, not so scary. It's a neat little gem. And it pops up these old school game booklets like you'd pull out of the case or out of the box when you played old games back in the 16-bit era. So a neat little game, and people really like it. I don't know if I'll ever get back to it. It's very involved. It's very cool.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard a lot of good things about it. It's definitely on my list, but I'm deciding between this and Trek to Yomi. That's kind of the one I'm going back and forth on. Trek to Yomi reviews were a little softer than I had expected. So that was a bit surprising, but it's those two. And then like on a AAA level, it's like the next one I want to get into is Ghostwire Tokyo. That's like the other one I'm eyeing out. So that, and then the big game this month I'm looking at is for Game Pass is Sniper. So fucking excited. Love Sniper Elite. So good.
That is so
it is, dare I say, elite. All right. Well, we talked about 2K a little bit. Let's pick that conversation back up with the final questions for the show. John writes in, hey, Dukes, last week the discussion included Hitman and how you cannot play the full game without an internet connection, even though it's single player. The worst example of this kind of thing is NBA 2K. You can't play some of the key modes offline, including My Career. But that's not the worst part. The worst part is these scumbags shut down the servers for each iteration of the series after a year or two in an attempt to entice you to buy the new one. What this means is that I own NBA 2K20, but half the modes can no longer be played, and my player, who I spent real-life money on, was deleted. Do you foresee this kind of thing becoming the norm? Will 2K and other companies continue to shit in everyone's mouth? And John, I got bad news for you, but yes, because I saw earlier today that they're shutting down the WWE 2K20 and 2021 servers. So I know one of those two games was actually really bad and buggy, but they're doing it for their other franchises. And I imagine they'll do it for the golf games. So, 2K's got the cheat code, man. They got y'all paying for hairstyles. They got you buying the brand new games. And if that means I get another Mafia game, thank you for your service. Thank you. Sorry, I saluted with the wrong hand. Thank you for your service. Appreciate you.
There you go.
So
they got Jake from State Farm in there now. Someone got to pay him.
Yeah. Do you guys see this being a norm? Do you see EA with EA Sports FC saying, okay, shut down the servers in 2 years. You're not updating those rosters. You're buying the new thing.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning now. I play 2K and I used heavy in my career. The amount of money you could spend just to, it literally nudges you into that just to compete, just to have a solid average character. So yeah, I think it's one of the most egregious use of microtransactions I've ever seen in gaming. I know friends that before the 2K comes out, the new 2K for my player, they set about $100 aside in VC. Just so their player could be one of the best out the box, coming, at least decent to play competitively on that My Career, court stuff. So they know what they got. And sadly, players, they got the analytics. Players are still doing this. They're not stopping. So yeah, it sucks that shut off the servers and in 2 years they kind of force nudge you. But until players fight back, and maybe it's because of the, the license stuff that I talked about earlier with FIFA stuff like that. There's other competition in the space to get people to go elsewhere. This is just where it's at, and they're milking it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I don't know how that works. I don't know how much it costs for them to upkeep old servers, or if they have enough servers just to keep the most current stuff online, and all the people that have to keep all that going, they just cut it off and say people want the new stuff. There's no fixing that. I think that's just what they're going to do. I agree.
Yeah. I agree.
All right, let's speak with Chaitanya Cockler, I believe is how you pronounce the name. I apologize if I got it wrong. Please correct me if I did. Hi, Maddie and Cog. A couple of months ago, we discussed how Xbox is more readily available than PlayStation 5. How do you see this affecting the generation long term? Will people just love Xbox now because it's more convenient? See, I feel like this is an avenue for people just to discover something that they didn't know they'd like anyway. Like, okay, I want to get in the next gen action. Series S is pretty cheap. Why not? And you find Game Pass through it. Like, that's how I feel like is the perfect cycle, right? Of like, oh, I actually can't imagine gaming without this now. Do you guys agree with that mindset? And do you think this will have a long-term impact as Xbox is more readily available than PlayStation?
Well, I mean, this is something to think about because the chip shortage is going to be a problem for the next 2 years, and PlayStation is not in the best position where they're sitting right now. I think they feel really disadvantaged to get consoles out to people. So Xbox isn't really relying on the console. So they have cloud, they have PC, they have consoles. The cloud will get the old consoles up to the latest game. So Xbox doesn't have to lean on the chip shortage. The whole thing about Xbox just being more desirable in general, Game Pass has really disrupted the industry in many, many positive ways. So Xbox is a great place to play, and people know it, and they're going to make up some of the gap because they spent 10 years so far behind the curve. So they're just in a better place where people actually really want an Xbox. And if you're an Xbox fan, it's kind of nice to hear because we're going to see more games go to the platform. This whole thing, like that Furi game, missing the Xbox, they're way behind on their thinking, and for whatever reasons they have. But that is going to slowly dissolve away. And that's what Phil's been pushing for, going to Japan and trying to reach these other markets and get a strong hold in Europe and these other places where hey, the Xbox is, look at what everyone else is joining in. Like, this is a great place to put your games. It's not just the customers. Those developers and those publishers need to look at Xbox going, this is a viable place to make money, and gaming is huge. So, jump in and start making games for the platform on Xbox.
Yeah, I mean, I've had this discussion with Maddie, and I feel like they're in a position where they've created so much value with Game Pass, the power of the console, the features of the console, then the fact that you have these great games that are sitting in the service. And I think it becomes enticing. And I'm a firm believer that I don't subscribe to this theory that, like, just because something is available more than another. Yes, if something's available and they're of equal value, if people perceive them as equal value, then yes, people are going to go to one, right, the other one. But, I just don't like this thought process that, it's only because, PlayStation is not available and that's why, right? Yeah. Because I know when I go shopping for a TV or I go shopping for something I truly want, right? And if it's not there, I'm not settling sometimes for something that I don't feel has good value. So people are going with the intention to pick this up, and that's the thing people have to say. I will say though, to the shortage thing, I think Sony just did the financials yesterday, and they have high expectations as far as what they plan from I think a shipment or whatever projection standpoint. And in my opinion, that means that they eventually feel they're going to alleviate some of this chip shortage stuff. So I want to see, as the generation matures and the chip shortage does kind of even itself out and PlayStations are available, how does that play in, right? Yeah. But I'm with Colt, Maddie, I'm with y'all in the sense that I think that this generation has been a tremendous turnaround for Xbox, and it is shown that people want this console, they're excited, and as Maddie always says, it's about that also that future of what could be too. When you see, like I said, the Starfields and the Bethesdas, the potential Activision deal, all these deals, and people are like, hey, it looks like they got a lot of stuff coming, and it could be even from this year moving forward, a start of that first party release cadence.
Absolutely. All right, we got another write-in here from Willie Olmstead. I think this is perfect for Colt. Hey, Boneless Maddie and Brawny Cog. Something I've always wanted to do is get a custom Xbox controller made, considering how easily you can get one. However, the cheapo in me has not allowed me this opportunity to treat myself. Do you guys have any custom controls yourselves? What are the details, colors, engravings, etc.? Thanks for the great content, and have a finger-licking good day. Colt, I happen to see a lot of controllers sitting there behind.
Yeah. They're not all custom. The sort of custom one is the lime green one, which I did like electric green version that says Ecstasy Podcast on it. Xbox sent that to me last year. So I've looked at the sites. I was actually looking to do one for a friend, but it's really, really pricey. It can be like $300 to get a custom like vinyl print on a controller, which seems simple, but it's a one and done. So it's very expensive. Cog, have you done this? Have you treat yourself?
I've treated myself on what is it, the Design Lab stuff. You know what I mean? I've done that. Got my little Iron Lord color with the black.
You got one within reach?
Yeah, I gotta go get it. It's in what you call the living room. But I mess with it. I had to calm down though. It becomes an addiction. You get too crazy with it. So it's just like, look, it's a market. One thing that surprised me is, as much as people would clown, I guess, Xbox for these kind of things, like when you see the MPD on accessories and how well it's doing, and you're like, yo, this is like, these are selling. Like, same thing with the Elite. I remember when it first was announced, I was like, oh, this is an enthusiast thing, like for me, right? And then this thing sold out and you can't find it anywhere. And I remember looking on eBay, Maddie, remember the Gears Series S? Not Series S.
1S.
1X?
1S.
Yep. That was red.
Mm-hmm.
That I love that console. You boot it up and make the gear sound and all that, dun, 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 and all that. It was fire.
The disc, it makes the loud locust.
The loudest screech.
Bro, my dog lost his mind every time. It de-incentivized me to play Xbox. Anytime I spit out a disc, it was like, wow, and there comes my dog, like just screeching as well. I'm like, oh, please calm down, please. I was just trying to play Xbox. That's all.
I didn't even realize. That's funny. I didn't realize that would have that effect. Yeah. But I remember that like it had an Elite controller also themed similar, and I must have missed the window bro, that thing was on eBay like $300-400. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. Because I couldn't find it anywhere. I guess they discontinued it or whatever. So there's a market. They're doing tremendous with accessories. So yeah, I participate. I just try to calm down.
Yeah, I don't mean this in a douchey way. I'm just not into that kind of stuff.
Mr. Physical, Mr.
Yeah, I know. Here's the thing. I can
Oh.
see those things. I can put my hands on them and appreciate them. When I'm playing a game, COG, guess where my eyes are? They're not down here. They're up there. They're looking at the screen, right? So I'm not interested in having a cool custom controller. I will take whatever comes out
are
of the box.
you?
Yes. I'll just take it right out of the box. Thank you. Does it work? Great. That's all I need.
Wait, so you never bought an Elite controller?
I like functionality. Or
feel
rather
of
improved
Elite.
functionality, like for example, the back paddles on like a Scuff controller. That's great. Yeah, okay. That's great.
Someone has a
Scuff gaming controller.
Yeah, so someone has a bag and some deals.
Yeah. Look at that. There we go.
This is a Hex controller. It's a third party, but it feels just like the Elite. It's got I don't know how clear this comes through. It's got texture. It's got extra paddles on the back.
I see it.
But it doesn't have that switch in the middle. It's got the share button in the middle, and it's heavy. It feels just like the Elite. A company sent me that one to do a tweet. Very cool. But
yeah, there's a lot of good third-party Xbox controllers. Like Power A is my favorite. They have really good ones. Like
see that Power A because you big time YouTubers. Let me see how this works.
I don't have it with me. It's at home because it was my replacement one controller. I know. Sorry,
it's in his other house.
Got to pay up to get
other house. You see how smooth that was, right? That was my other establishment.
Us 12-year-olds have a lot of time to make a lot of money.
It is kind of silly because you don't look at the controller. I feel the same way with Maddie about the custom console. I just want a sleek, just like kind of a sleek black Xbox Series X. I got the black D-brand plates and the PS5 over here. You can't see it. Yeah, I just, just incognito, just power on and play my games. I don't want anything flashy. That's why, like, I've seen the picture. Dealer Gaming has the Gears 1S, and it looks pretty cool. I don't know. It's fine.
The only one that got me was the R2D2 360. That one I have. Yeah. That was a dream console for me. I bought it last year. I love that thing. I really do. I'm a Star Wars geek, so I know why. But what's going to be interesting, a willpower test, COG, you'll willpower check me. I know you will. Is if they do what they did with Halo with Starfield, and they're like, we're doing a Starfield console.
It's over. It's over.
I'll be curious to see if I want to pull the trigger on that, right? Because with Fallout 4, I bought every fucking thing they did for promotion. Everything, the pop figures, the wallet, the Fallout. I was disgusting. So I'm very interested to see.
I'm in trouble if they do that.
I hope they just do more merch. I got to wear more for the rest of the year. I've been wearing the same shirt for I think 5 weeks now. So
I gotta say for his question, if you have set aside some money and you want to buy something like that, just do it. I've spent too long being a cheap son of a bee, and sometimes if you have the money and you're just like, I really want that. If it's not going to knock you out of your rental, just go get it, man. Yeah. Like it sounds like he wants a custom controller. Figure out, find a couple sites, find one that has something for about $100 and just do it, man. You're gonna love it. Maddie won't care. Maddie's not buying it.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm gonna revoke Colt's old man privileges now, though, because he censored himself. You're in a podcast with me, sir.
You're not in the realm with the Lord. You're in the realm with the Dukes. You can be loose.
Yeah. This is the ColtEastwood, though. We were talking with Jez Corden last night about how we're the Marvel Universe, and I said I got to be Captain America because I won't swear. But
I respect it. I'm kidding, but I do respect that. I don't know how you do
it. It's all good.
All right. Who do we have up here next? This one I put in here because I didn't really get it, but I don't know if it'll connect with you two. Like it didn't for me. Hunt in Japan writes, "Hey Dukes, something I've been thinking about is how a good game will have me completely immersed in the game world. So while I'm in that world, reality does not seem so important. If I let myself do that, those numbers on my bank account really don't mean as much. From this perspective, microtransactions feel really bad. Modern games require mental walls lest you face financial ruin. Does this perspective change your view as it did mine? Hope you all have a I just turned 30 kind of day." I didn't get this, and I just want to throw this in here as like potential conversation if you all would be able to explain it to me, but I didn't really fully grasp this one.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused.
I kind of do. I think he's saying,
okay, break it down for us.
He gets very immersed and he doesn't worry about like his financial troubles. So he's like, I'm loving this game so much. I'm so immersed in the world and the lore. I want to buy that cape. I want to buy that unicorn or Pegasus. And then at the end of the month, I'm like, what did I do? I think that's what he's getting at.
Yeah.
I got the first part. I just didn't understand the second part. Was it from this perspective, microtransactions feel relevant? So you lose yourself in the world. You don't care about your money in the bank.
Everything feels fake. Like, you know, it's fake, but you can do what you want in the game. So you take that mentality into the real world. Like, that's what I was kind of thinking.
Okay, maybe that's it.
That's kind of what I originally got.
He gets
but I was
loose
like,
with his money because he gets
So maybe he gets, maybe it's what you say, Cole. Like he's so immersed that he gets loose because he's like, now I realize my transactions are bad because I'm just in here spending. Maybe that's where he's going. Yeah, and he's swiping
it on the PS5.
Messy, sir. You messy. See, we've been doing good with you. Here you go.
Well, I mean, that's what I have the disc drive in the Series X. I'm like, which is a chip? Come on. No,
I'm done.
All right. I mean, it is so easy. You've already got your credit card or your debit card on file on your PS5 or your Xbox, right? Facts. And if you're feeling it, right? I'm just gonna buy this. I did it. Remember hashtag Ashy Spartans? I never buy microtransactions. I bought that sleek armor so quick. Yes. I was like out there like
had that HCS. Oh yeah. I had to be platinum. I can't be in the Ashy Spartans. Shout out to Khalif. He was on XNC and we did that.
Was a good time. That was a good time.
That was a good one.
Is that what you're getting from it, Maddie? Are we kind of, you think we're nailing this question?
That's the thing. I didn't really know in the first place. I just thought you guys were wiser than me with age. Yes. So, I thought maybe you might have the answers, but I thought maybe it was kind of what I was hypothesizing, that perhaps the money means less because they take that mindset from the game world into their real world. I don't know. Hunt in Japan, please follow up though. We would like to try our best to answer your question. All right. We got two more left here. Ghost Raid comes up first. Hello, Dukes. I have this unfortunate discovery that Crocs is releasing a line that smells of breakfast cereal. And even worse, I know someone who has a pair of them. Their every footstep smells like an extremely strong cinnamon toast crunch. That being said, in my sorrows, I created a question for you. If you could have a candle that smells like any video game, be it the world, a character, or anything of the sort, what would it be? Have a game remaster gives the protagonist Crocs kind of day. This is all kinds of messy. That's why I put you in the back of the show. I did not put you in the front, Ghost Raid. This is wrong.
What are we doing?
Only the hardcore Duke fans get to hear this one.
We talk about Crocs, but you know how I feel about this. You know how I feel about this right now. This is a sad state of affairs that you even talk about Crocs. But we're going to move on from now. You talk about Crocs and smells with video. What are we doing?
Bro, they're going on StockX for $120. Look at these things. That's abysmal, man. Hold on. I'm linking this in our chat. Look at these things, man. He knows someone who wears these.
Wow. Colt, don't let me find out about you with these.
I'm ordering 2 pairs. One for you, one for me, baby.
Oh. Bro, do you see this?
You know what's funny? When they talk about a video game smell, you guys realize that most of the video games we play, it takes place in a era or it takes place in a world when people reek. They never shower. Like it's post-apocalyptic, or it's early days before we took a shower once or twice a week at least, right? Like if you're talking Red Dead, like people smell so horrible. If you're talking Fallout, people they don't have running water. They gotta. Oh, it's gross.
There's only one game I've seen kind of address it. It was Kingdom Come Deliverance. Like you could reek, and that would affect your.
I thought about that too.
That would affect your interaction with people. Yeah, shout out to Kingdom Come Deliverance. But yeah, you're right. Like video games is the medium where it's just like smell really doesn't have too much. I think the only other game that did that before, way back, was Tenchu for 360. And I remember like the dogs could smell you if you went in, like your ninja went into a sewer or something like, it was some weird joint. But yeah, to this, I don't know. Man.
I found Lucky Charms ones as well.
Wow.
Put it in chat.
Better.
These are really a thing.
Tell your friend to grow up, man. This is not right. They should not be wearing these Taco Bell ones. This can't be a wave.
Pizza slime, sweethearts.
Wait, they have Taco Bell ones?
They
they got they got
all right,
Colt. There it is.
all right, Cole. I gave you the spoon fork question. I forgot to give you the croc question. I'm guessing you're a croc wearer.
Be honest. Yo, his face. Yo, his face was like,
man.
No, and I'll tell you.
I was nervous.
I mean, Crocs are dumb, but
Okay,
in the late 90s, I had this
your
pair of, in the late 90s, I had these sandals I really, really liked. Like 98, they were like dock style sandals, and they had like a woven square pattern over them. So I don't know, like eight weaves of leather.
Weaves.
You know what I mean? And then they just went around they just covered your whole foot, but they had a little bit of air. They were not by the middle of the summer, they were gross because they didn't let enough. Yeah. And so like, of course they looked good at the time, but they were nasty. And then 10 years later, the Crocs came out, a rubber version of that. Basically, I'm like, no way. I'm not putting Bridgestone tires on my feet and walking around smelling like stank, bro. It's not happening.
Folks, welcome back every time now. He's welcome back. This is what we needed to hear. We need to put this debate. All these Croc lovers. Yes, this is
all
how you
17
look
of you.
to us.
Yeah.
We have to name and shame you, Croc lovers. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
This is disgusting behavior. We had to correct it.
I mean, I don't know if I could even answer the question Ghost Rain wrote in about because, like Colt said, a lot of these game worlds we play in that I love, like even KOTOR, I'm like, I want to smell like the broken down apartment of Terrace in the Undercity. There's just a lot of these game worlds don't look like they smell pleasant, right?
Good point.
So,
good point.
I mean, PlayStation was going to try this, right? When they were trying out things for like the controller speaker, they were originally going to put a thing in the controller that created smells, and that could have ended horribly. Imagine playing a Plague Tale Requiem or Innocent, sorry, and you're like crawling through that one section where there's a bunch of dead bodies. Like what that would have been like. Nah, like they would have ruined gaming, man. They would have ruined gaming, man. I don't need some foul stink.
You don't need
what
that.
is in your controller that spins up and fans out a smell? Oh, I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know what that magic is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Someone tested it.
Moving on.
Connor Tickner writes in, "Hey Dukes, just curious if you guys ever got to look at the user reviews for games on the Microsoft Store. Like recently for Loot River and Citizen Sleeper, there's a handful of people lambasting the games for being pixel art / indies and complaining that this isn't what they expect from Game Pass. Do you believe these people are just misinformed on what the goal of Game Pass is, or is there an issue with how Microsoft markets the service? Thanks for putting on a great show." Thank you, Connor. I thought this was interesting because I think it does highlight a mindset that maybe many of us had in the early indie days of like, you want the big AAA thing, and people still need to open up to indie. So what do you guys think of some people's reception to games coming day one to Game Pass and how they're not always the big AAA or even AA monsters that many people are expecting, it seems?
You want me to go? I am in the camp that I want them to get more big games because there are a lot of smaller games in the service. So I feel like they should be reaching out to get bigger games like every quarter at least, or maybe even more than that. And even if it means grabbing a game that is a couple months old, has already like seen its big sales spike. So, but then you can't deny some of the great smaller games that came out. Like 3 years ago, a Riverbond came out, this little Minecraft dungeon looking game. I loved it to death. And of course, you always hear, I would have never played it if it weren't for Game Pass. So they're trying to strike that. They're actually Xbox is trying to bring in a game that's going to be like a cult classic or a cult hit, you know, like something like Among Us. If Among Us would have come to Game Pass at the beginning, imagine what that would have done. They've waited 2 years for it. So but they are trying. They're hoping that when something comes, it just like flies off and becomes like a trending game that costs very little to bring the service. So I think they're trying to get that too.
Yeah, I think they can get that happy medium, you know, with the games per quarter, you know, trying to with the first party and then the indie stuff. But I think you need them. I think you need the indies, and they've done a tremendous job this generation with really, I think, getting their finger on the pulse of the right indies. Just to, even to see a game like Trek to Yomi, Ionin Chronicle, you know what I mean? Danganronpa. You know, Manny games. Well, but no, all jokes aside, no, you need it because I know the people who don't get me wrong. I love the AAA games like Colt 2. Don't get me wrong. I love those big smashes in the service. You're like, okay, this is tremendous value. We talked about Outriders and all that stuff when it came out. But I think you need this because you need to have that diverse lineup in the service. If the service is to grow and truly be in different markets, you have to have those pockets where everyone can get into it. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you guys. I think I'd lean more on the side of Colt where we have so many of them, and I'm happy to keep that up. I just definitely want to see a big splash finally. You know, I think with this year, it's kind of been interesting to see how it's developed because outside of Sniper Elite 5, I think Rainbow Six Extraction was the last big one we really saw. And Rainbow Six Extraction obviously did not light the world on fire. The game was not great. So they, you know, I'm really expecting a lot of things from that service in the coming months, and I'm hoping that they're ready to splash because we know that they do have a big Game Pass wallet ready to spend, as we had heard for a while. So I'm hoping they do deliver on those, but I don't think it means that we have to scoff at the volume of excellent indies we're getting day one on Game Pass. That's one thing that even I just learned recently is sometimes it's not about the big player. You know, when you get a month like May where you get the, as Cog said, Trek to Yomi Eden, Chronicle Citizen Sleeper, you get something like Sniper Elite as well. Like that's, I think, as good, if not better, sometimes than a big AAA game. So it's going to clearly take a lot to get these developers to bite, and I'm wondering if we'll ever see a domino effect because I thought that may have started with something like Outriders and then MLB The Show, but it
that's what you
stopped pretty quickly.
Yeah, the third party is where that's where the weakness is. The third party date release is where they have to improve.
And it's possible that they do look at their own lineup and say, let's get indies because soon we're going to be providing those big things. We don't need to spend more out there. Focus on what's in here. So I could actually rescind my statement immediately about expecting big things in the next half of the year. Because now that I think about it, I'm like, why the fuck would they ever do that? So
if they intend, their cadence that they plan on releasing first part.
So that's everything we have for episode 71 of Defining Duke and Xbox podcast. It's been an absolutely wonderful episode. Colt, thank you so much for hanging out with us for just about 3 hours at this point in time. We hope you enjoyed, man.
I did. It's super fun. I'm just good friends and nothing really crazy. Like we didn't go too psychotic, but it's a good time.
You made
a little bit. Yeah.
No, shout out to you, man. Good. Thanks for pulling up, coming through. You know, shout out to your platform and channel. I always say your videos are ridiculously high quality. You know, again, I always tell the joke that you don't always tell you that when I watch a ColtEastwood video, it's almost like the movie trailer in a world. It
does have that vibe. That's so true.
Yeah, so true. So super high production value, and then to see you kind of expand into your space with XNC and to see the growth. You obviously had like 50 episodes. You got Kaz now on there. You had Randall Thor on there. You know what I'm saying? It's cool to see your journey, and salute to you for pulling up, talking some Xbox with us on Defining Duke. Had a good time.
Yeah, and salute to the community, the people we see in the chat, the people that are viewing and who are commenting and messaging us, and the people in this community that we cross-collaborate with, like we cross-pollinate with all these other podcasts. We go to their shows, we talk in the chat, or we're in as podcast guests. Like it's been so great to meet this community that loves gaming, and that's why we make the content, right? Because we're excited and we love generating that excitement with other people and saying, man, I'm really looking forward to that game. I thought it was going to be trash, but it's so fun. It's been really good. So thank you for having me on. I'm glad to be a part of it. Feel very grateful for sure.
No doubt. And you're on the right side of history with forks, and you don't like Crocs, so you're good about mommy. You're all set. Man, you got to deal with Maddie with the spoon thing. That's all.
I'll have a utensil for you in the future. Don't worry. I'll be at your table every meal. You'll see restaurants putting me in, wrapped up in the napkin with the forklifts. It's over. It's over. I'll be inescapable eventually. So I'm gonna look at some patents for that. We'll see what we can get going for that. I feel like we got a multi-million-dollar idea sitting on.
It is uncharted territory for sure.
Absolutely.
Yes.
So we doing the hash. Yeah, I feel like we got a Colt DD. I thought that was kind of the one going around my head. Respect to the guest.
Yeah. Respect to the desk, Colt DD. Yeah, let's set the world on fire.
All right, cool. Excellent. So if you got this deep into the show, you want to share your thoughts, I'm at Cheese27 Status on Twitter. That is at Lord Cognito. Cole, is your handle's at Colt_Eastwood, right?
At ColtEastwood. At ColtEastwood. Yeah, one word.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, very easy.
Yeah.
Excellent. So tweet at any of us, all of us preferably, with the hashtag ColtDD. Let us know your thoughts on this week's episode, and we will be back next week for episode 72 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. Thank you so much for your time. Take great care of yourselves. Have an okay day, and peace out.
Peace.
Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC, and is recorded from the United States of America. The show is conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. Matty's co-host is Barry Lord Cognito Eversley. Defining Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level on Patreon, and we're thankful for your kindness and generosity.